Welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. We are live. It is November 25th, 2025. What a day. Zohran Mamdani went on Adam Friedland show. Weiss goes in front of that same Zionist conference. It says that her goal is to control the Overton window of what is acceptable to talk about in America. Some Senate Democrats formally start Fight Club in order to oppose Senate leadership's interference within Senate primaries. And the Chinese embassy in the United States has just retweeted Hassan Piker. Eye emoji. Furthermore, the Chinese overall are now becoming very popular with young people. Slow and inexorable spread of Xi Jinping thought will not be slowed. I may only have a Bachelor of Arts degree in mass communication, but I don't think this is the media's job to control the Overton window. But hey, what do I know? Well, then you haven't read one of the most important books to understand how the media operates, Manufacturing Consent. Now, Noam Chomsky is a flawed individual, let's put it that way. But the media critique continues to be relevant, which is what we're going to talk about today. The Hassan Pike delegation friendship tour was a great success. Yeah, I think it went well. How's gym progress going? Pretty good. Inventing Reality by Parenti is good too. Oh yeah. Did you see the Chinese embassy noticing Hassan? LOL, picking one of the most hated influencers and animal abuser was not the best choice. Megatron. I'm curious. I love Collargate. No, I don't either. I don't. Just because it's stupid. Just because it's stupid doesn't mean that it's not effective. By the way, the 25th of November marks the death of Fidel Castro. The U.S. is definitely going to strike Venezuela tonight. I mean, I found that on Twitter without fail. The same nutters who decry Graham Plattner as a Nazi without fail also have as many posts about Hassan shocking Kaya. The brain rot is real, or the bots are real. Only the stupidest people believe it. There's a lot of stupid people. There's a lot of stupid people, and we need stupid people to be on our side. This is something that I think needs to be kind of a mentality shift needs to happen with you. Listen, if I was like, fuck everyone who I consider ignorant and stupid, well, let's just say we're not getting a majority. Okay? So you need to like tone down the arrogance, tone down the self-assuredness, and realize that if dumb people are getting tricked, well, and they're opposing you, what does it say about you that you cannot persuade dumb people to agree with you? Dumb people are supposed to be easy to persuade. Why are you failing to persuade dumb people? Every social movement needs to be able to persuade dumb people if it's going to be successful. It says that lying is OP. The thing about lying is it is OP, but it also has an expiration date. If you're lying all the time, maliciously, you might be able to get a short-term win. This is something that Ethan Klein and Destiny in particular don't understand. And Asmongold, he's learning that. Which is, you can lie and you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And when you lie, it's a debt. When you are publicly lying to people, it's a debt. And eventually the payments are going to come due. And your credibility is going to be damaged. I think everybody gets so fucking caught up in the moment and in an individual fight and whether somebody looks bad or good in the moment that they forget that shit runs out and eventually it catches up to you. And the thing is, chat, you don't even remember the influencers and online personalities that you used to watch and you have since forgotten. This is something that I kind of have humility about, right? I am incredibly grateful that I've been able to have my community for as long as I've had it. My brother said he wanted Mark Kelly for 2028. I doubt he had thought about Kelly prior to him speaking about orders. I have been working on persuading him, but he's very reactionary and overly confident in his knowledge. I think the best thing to do in those type of circumstances with family is to have a conversation about what their goals are. Like, what do you think politics is for? What are you trying to accomplish? Let's have a conversation about that. Mark Kelly, I mean, the reason why I don't like people that see politics as a way to aggrandize themselves and don't actually have any goals for the government. Winning without a purpose is the same thing as losing. Mike, what's up with people hating Zohran's transition team on Twitter? It's just the incentives of Twitter are to focus on people that you don't like as opposed to people you do like. For example, Zohran just invited one of the most strident police abolitionists and reformists into his transition team. Did you hear about that? He has Lena Khan on his transition team. I think you heard about that one. Now, he also has a couple of YIMBY people on his transition team. But far as I know, there's like one or two like local New York real estate people that are on the advisory team, and they're more than offset by a larger number of other housing advocates. I think Zohran has adopted a policy of giving some centrist Democrats a seat at the table. But until we see exactly how his policies play out, the personnel has a lot of left-wingers in it. And I feel like a lot of, housing is one of those things where I'm sorry, but the proof is in the pudding. It's not in the allegiances that people put out there. Like, I need to see exactly how the housing policy is implemented before, like, because I'm not somebody who is a believer in anarchist style organizing that has been prevalent and co-opted by a lot of really fucking dark badged policies. And I'm not sure that I support localism in general for housing policy, because it tends to empower boomers so they could drive up their property value. And I'm sorry, chat, but I don't think housing should go up in value. I think housing should be cheaper over time, not more expensive. And the fact that it's becoming more expensive is a sign of terrible housing policy. All utilities should be getting cheaper. Electricity should be getting cheaper. Housing should be getting cheaper. Healthcare should be getting cheaper. Transportation should be getting cheaper. That's what the way they should not be going up in price faster than inflation. A society that's not delivering those major things is fucking failing. So overall, I'm not I gotta be honest with you, chat. There's very few Americans that have good housing policy on the left or the right. This is my own personal take. If it makes you mad, you just haven't studied enough. I don't really trust Angloids to know how to build housing. They haven't been able to do it since like 1940. My house has grown 50% in value since I bought it 8 years ago. This means I'm not closer to a new house so much as trapped in this one. It's a nice condo though, so I'm not complaining. What's your view on 3D printed housing? I am a believer that there is no silver bullet in construction method. Housing policy, if it's going to be effective, has to be redistributive. Meaning there has to be an active policy to prevent rich enclaves. We need to be building, we need to be taking government subsidies and building dense co-ops like Alt-Urla or Aspern-Seestadt, like these large quarters of the city that are socially and economically integrated. I believe that the best housing policy is one where you don't know how rich someone is based on where they're from in your city. I don't think it's a good idea to have a place like Beverly Hills. Sliwa has been a total fraud for decades. I believe he cost me the election. If he didn't run, I would have won. Andrew Cuomo delusion is amazing.
Sliwa has been a total fraud for decades. I think Sid Rosenberg was still in Florida when it turned out that the Guardian Angels in Sliwa made up a whole raft of stories of rescues that they did that turned out not to be true, that Sliwa said he was kidnapped by the New York Police Department and held, and then admitted that wasn't true. But he, I believe, he cost me the election. I believe if he did not run, I would have won.
I can't believe the Republican ran as a Republican. How dare he? And that really shows you something, chat, right? Which is These centrists, they're all on the same team. I really want you to know that we are facing a deep state. And, you know, I was a populist. I've been a populist for a long time because of my personal experiences with the Democratic Party. Now I really believe that we need a social revolution. Like, I do believe, I agree with the anarchists about that. I really do. I just think the order of operations is different than they do. I think you need to grab hold of the state and then you could do the social revolution. All right. They think you could do it all at once. And I think that's not correct. Author of The End of Policing, Alex Vitale. I'm excited to announce that I've been asked to join the Mamdani transition team to work on community safety issues, a new era for NYC. I think one of the things that I see with Zohran Mamdani in particular is a desire that people have for cognitive load lightening. I think I've figured out what's going on. Basically, a lot of people are desperate to put politicians into a box and then declare that box to be bad. And so they don't have to think about it anymore. And they could just react with the same reaction. I call this the bad and patata style of politics, where you try to collect enough talking points for why someone's bad, and then you try to just be like, they're bad. And then you repeat the talking points. There's no analysis really being had. There's no like conversation of you know, tactical or strategic decision making, or you know, what is being accomplished by abandoning a person that was the result of a grassroots effort to get them elected, right? And I think this is kind of the essence of the problem we have. Is I'm not somebody like that, and I never have been. You know, I'm a harshly critical person. I think everybody understands that I'm harshly critical of national politicians, including AOC. But I'm also a tactical and strategic thinker. I am trying to accomplish progress going forward, and we are seeing that. My name is Central Committee. Let's start off with this. Young people are starting to love China. Gen Z finally has a W under their belt. Gen Z finally has a W over their belt. They have an issue where they're smarter than millennials. Thank God. Finally. And the reason why Gen Z are so pro-China is because their opinions of China are up to date.
As you might have noticed, China has recently enjoyed somewhat of a PR comeback.
Nice, Fleet.
Polling reliably shows that global opinion towards China has improved steadily over the past couple of years, rising markedly from the lows we saw during the pandemic, when Chinese officials spent much of their time practicing wolf warrior diplomacy on Twitter. What's more striking, however, is that it's consistently young people who are less negative about China than their older counterparts. So in this video, we thought we'd take a look on how Gen Z's opinion of China differs from older generations across the globe, and try
By the way, chat, the reason why he's making this video is because China is hot in the algo. China is hot in the algo, and so even these kind of like centrist-y media things are starting to make more China content. The thing about China, and the one thing that the biggest critique I have of China is ultimately a critique of American politics, which the Chinese understand that Israel has an incredibly high importance to the United States. They have spies, okay? They have spies that are reading our senators' emails and listening into their phone calls, and they understand, oh, Israel is the highest priority of the American political class. They know that. So whenever you're complaining, like, why isn't China fighting the U.S. more on Israel? It's because they know that your politicians would rather you die than Israel be unsupported by the U.S. And if you think I am exaggerating, there was a quote from Nancy Pelosi that when I saw it, I became apoplectic. And every time I'm reminded of it, I become incredibly fucking mad. It popped into my head during this conversation, and I am starting to seethe because it's so fucking evil and so unbelievable. I can't even believe it was clapped.
The one thing that would remain operations fundamental to fundamental.
If the United States Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is U.S. aid to Israel, because that is fundamental. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in 2018. Do you understand? Do you understand that the problem is your fucking country? Do you understand that fighting Israel is declaring war on the United States even more so than killing Americans is? Israel is torturing a Palestinian American boy right now. Israel murders American journalists. And it is from Muslim Americans, Christian Americans, even Jewish Americans. They are literally murdering blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls who are from the Midwest because they dare challenge Israel in the West Bank. There is no status that protects you from Israel, and the American government doesn't give a fuck. The American government will watch you be murdered by Israel and give them another $40 billion.
Best to explain why young people are apparently more pro-China. The TLDR Black Friday sale is now on. That includes our biggest ever discounts on all products.
Okay.
So let's start by looking at the polling.
Interesting.
A recent GlobeScan poll surveyed 32,000 respondents from across
China is now more popular than the United States in Mexico, South Africa, and Indonesia. Oh my God. Brazil, it's closer to 50-50. Spain, it's closing in on 50-50. Canada, why are you such fucking simps? Why are you pathetically on your knees? We said we're going to invade your country. What the fuck's wrong with you? India, of course. Sorry guys, but India is so jealous of China. It's crazy. Honestly, like, I don't like to talk about Indian politics because it's literally so dire. It's so fucking dire. And I should be talking about it more. There was a protest last week in New Delhi about the air pollution because India now has air pollution that is worse, the worst that has ever been recorded in human history. Far worse than what Beijing was like or Shanghai was like. And there was a protest for clean air and the Modi government smashed it with maximum force. It is dire in there. It's dire. Kerala is full of comedy. I mean, I love Kerala and I like India too. That's the thing. I like India. India is fucking cool as hell. It's just their politics are absolute dog shit. It is not great.
32 countries, and it found in every single country, including the US, preference for China as the world's leading power has risen, while support for America has slipped.
India is not a dump. Oh, I agree completely. It's a beautiful place that colonialism hurt deeply. Oh yeah, 100%. I speak about Portugal. Mandarin classes are filled to the brim with young people, but also with 30 to 40-year-olds. Vibes are shifting to the EU. People are seeing that the status quo doesn't work. I do think that what happens with the acceptance of a country is when ambitious people start to recognize that a country is where, like, these are the politics free people. They're all starting to recognize that China's good. You know, it's when your Will Neffs are able to get over the programming that America inculcates into you because they go to China and they experience it and they realize this is just another really cool place. There's nothing evil about China. It's not what I heard, half heard out of the corner of my ear from American propaganda. It is a beautiful country. It is a diverse country. It is a well-run country. It's an exciting place. In many ways, they have seized their future. That's the truth. That's disingenuous. Will is extremely politically aware compared to normies. I'm not being disingenuous at all. I think that Will going to China, he was not enthused. And when he went, he realized how cool it is.
But perhaps more notably, the younger the respondent...
That's not my take. That's me just quoting him. I saw him say that.
The more likely they were to welcome Chinese leadership. In other words, while views of China have become slightly more positive across the globe in recent years, this shift has been particularly marked among those below the age of 24. As we can see, among 18 to 24-year-olds globally, support for China versus the US is nearly tied at 39 and 41% respectively, while in every other age cohort, the US has maintained a clear lead. Another 2025 poll by Pew Research backs this up, showing that younger people generally view China more...
I want you to understand something, chat. This is why the Soviet Union fell. The Soviet Union fell because the life experience of the average American during the late 70s, early 80s into the 80s and the early 90s was perceived to be much better in the United States. And the Soviet Union had no plan to break out of that more abundantly. Whereas in the United States, so at people of the Eastern Bloc saw American prosperity, and there was a gap, especially in consumer goods. And that created a permanent kind of damaging reality of comparison. Blue jeans and rock and roll. Just life seemed to be better for young Americans than it did for young people in the Soviet Union. The other reality is that boomers are very conservative. I think it has to do with brain chemicals that were in the air, and I think they damaged Soviet citizens that were boomers as well. I mean, let's just be honest with you, okay? I have no idea what that is, 67. China now needs to ramp up its cultural exports. The U.S. still reigns on top for movies, fashion, music, art. China needs to challenge that. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. Will Neff is politically aware, but not politically motivated. IMO, which is basically the same thing. The Soviet Union never had the opportunity to make a consumer economy. Their formative years as a nation forced the military industry. Yes, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just telling you what happened. I'm not saying that, you know, the path of history, we know why it went down that branch. Okay. And China, they've been allowed to develop their economy with access to the world economy. And they have got the opposite. They wanted to be the world's powerhouse of production. And so now Chinese people are getting cheaper and cheaper goods. They have housing. They have healthcare. Their lives are affordable. They may make less money at a top line number, but when you actually talk about purchasing power parity, buying a bottle of Coca-Cola in China versus buying a bottle of Coca-Cola in America, Chinese people, they have their basic needs met and they have that extra disposable income. They have savings, whereas Americans don't, and they have debt. That fundamental experience and the focus on inward development by China is going to fundamentally damage the United States' reputation, because I don't care. I mean, you could have the strongest military in the universe, but if your country domestically sucks, it's going to lead to discontent. What is the largest economy in the world? It's China, and it's not even close. I think China is at least 30% bigger than the US now.
Positively than their older counterparts. For example, in the UK, 56% of those aged 18 to 34 had a favourable view of China, compared to just 28% of those aged 50 plus. Even in countries where opinion towards China is generally pretty negative, like Japan and the US, this trend still holds up, and young people are more positive than older generations. What's behind all of this, though? Why do young people seem to be more open to China than older people? Well, we see at least 5 potential reasons that might explain this tendency. The first is that young people just really don't like Trump. As we've detailed in previous videos, young people are more disapproving of Trump than any other generation. While more Gen Z backed Trump in his 2024 presidential campaign than in previous runs, according to a YouGov poll taken in October, support for Trump among young Americans has reached an all-time low, with his net approval rating falling to below -50, down from basically evens at the start of his term. In other words, while Trump's net approval has declined in all age groups since the start of his term, no age group has registered as big a drop as adults.
What? Is this Gen Z worldwide or in the United States alone? I'm kind of confused about this age, like this population. Is this Americans? This must be Americans, right?
Under 30. It's at least possible that young Americans' disillusionment with Trump has translated to greater support for China, at least when it comes to which superpower young people would prefer to lead the world.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I don't think that would do it. I don't think Trump being unpopular is necessarily going to make Americans like China. So I think what you really mean to say, I'm going to give a miss on this one. Certainly, Trump being unpopular is more reflective of people in the American, government and society being unhappy, right? Like it's not necessarily correlated with China doing well. So I get it. But by the way, if they were very happy, then they would probably like that. This is more of an account for why the U.S. is declining with young people than it is with why China's rising, which I guess is part of the equation.
The second reason is a related but broader phenomenon, a generational decline in democratic faith. A 2020 report from the Center for the Future of
Do
Democracy.
you think the U.S. should defend Taiwan if China tried to take it over? Absolutely not. Taiwan is part of China, just like Hong Kong was part of China or Macau was part of China. The only reason they existed is because the United States military ejected itself in a civil war to support fascists who are fleeing the fucking mainland after being defeated. And the reason why the United States wants Taiwan there is so they can blockade the Chinese coast if we ever get into some sort of conflict. It's an aggressive colony of the United States. It is not part of China. Now, I'm not saying that China should attack Taiwan. I would be against that. I just want you to understand. I'm against that. I think they should be peacefully reunified like Hong Kong. And I think the model of maintaining Taiwan's domestic institutions, the two model approach toward the reunification is a good idea, and it's what they should do. And I think the United States should butt out, is what I think. Weren't there protests in Hong Kong? There are protests in America. What is your question? Right-wingers sometimes protest. What do you want me to say? It certainly was less violent than the way that our protests were treated in fucking George Floyd protests. I remember. I was comparing and contrasting the two. You want to understand that this would be like if the Confederacy retreated to Florida, Key West, under British protection at the end of the Civil War, declared itself the legitimate government of the entire country, and the whole world pretended that was real for 20 years. Yeah, there is absolutely like no reason the United States should be involved. Now, again, I don't want Taiwan invaded, but the United States should not be involved. It's not our business. That is the reality. And I think a lot of white, especially Americans, when you hear somebody say, hey, this isn't our business, we should stop interfering, we should stop fomenting conflict. The only reason why Taiwan is able to like stand up to China is implicitly because the United States is using Taiwan as a base. Like everybody gets this, right? Why is the United States all the way across the Pacific right up in China's face? It doesn't make sense unless you're trying to fight a war. For some reason, why are you trying to fight a war with China? It doesn't even make sense. I think Taiwanese people should be able to decide what they want to do. What do you mean by Taiwanese people? Do you mean the indigenous Taiwanese population that was colonized and exterminated by the Han Chinese fascists who invaded Taiwan at the end of the Civil War and then exterminated and displaced the indigenous population and denied them rights? Is that who do you mean? Or do you mean self-styled Taiwanese people? I believe in land back in Taiwan. I think the indigenous Taiwanese people should be compensated for being colonized by the KMT that did a military dictatorship for 40 fucking years. It's very funny when people are like, oh, Mike, see, Taiwanese people should be able to make this decision. And it's like, imagine if, what state are you from, chatter? What city or state are you from? Old school hype. What state are you from? I'm going to describe what happened to Taiwan using your city or state as a guide. Let's imagine that your state, let's say, let's make it easy and say that it is Florida. Florida was invaded by the Confederacy. And then for 40 years, from 1948 to 1991, you were under martial law. And anytime somebody was a liberal or a social democrat or a civil libertarian or an indigenous rights activist, they were fucking murdered or imprisoned and tortured. The KMT carried out persecutions against those who criticized or opposed the government, accusing them of attempting to subvert the regime while dramatically expanding the scope of punishment throughout this period. It made use of the Taiwan Garrison Command, a secret police, as well as other intelligence units by enacting special criminal laws as tools for the government to purge dissidents. Basic human rights and right to privacy were disregarded, with mass pervasive monitoring of the people, filings of sham criminal cases against anyone suspected of being a dissident, as well as labeling any individuals who do not conform to a pro-regime stance as being communist spies, often without merit. Others were labeled as Taiwanese separatists and prosecuted for treason. 4,000 civilians were executed by the government during the White Terror. The government is also suspected of carrying out extrajudicial killings against exiles in other countries. The White Terror is generally considered to have begun at the declaration of martial law in 19 May 1949. For its ending date, some sources cite the lifting of martial law on 15 July 1987. Others cite the repeal of Article 100 of the Criminal Code on 21 September 1992, which allowed the persecution of people for anti-state activities. Martial law officially lasted 38 years and 57 days, which was the longest period of martial law in the world at the time it was lifted. You have martial law for 40 years in Florida. We kill and murder every single leftist, every single liberal, every single person who advocates for indigenous rights or black rights. We call them communist spies. You say they're treasonous. You put them in torture camps. 140,000 people arrested. 3,000 killed in judicial executions, with 28,000 killed in extrajudicial executions. Targets: political dissidents, leftists, liberals, independence activists, and intellectuals. And then you go, okay, now we're a democracy. We've killed everybody who's a dissident or a leftist for 40 fucking years of martial law with secret police and genocide. Now we're all going to do a democracy and vote what we're going to do going forward now. Huh? I think maybe that's not the fair way of doing things. I think murdering leftists for 40 years and then going, well, we're a democracy now. We want to have American bases on our island pointing nukes at China. What do you mean? We're an independent country now. I don't think that's a good way of doing politics. And I don't think that Florida of our hypothetical would be justified in declaring its independence if the British military was sitting there pointing guns at America saying, you better leave Florida alone, as it's murdering black people for saying they deserve rights. I think that's probably not the way we should do things.
For instance, shows that young people...
Now, I'm not saying, again, and I want to double underline this, I don't want China to invade Taiwan. I don't want China to invade Taiwan. I want the United States to say, it's not our business. We're going to stop giving weapons to Taiwan. We're going to stop interfering with Taiwan. Taiwan and China should have their own settlement negotiations with the goal of having a reunification just like Hong Kong had with China, where they respect the regime, they have a two systems policy, and they go from there. Now, the United States of America doesn't... Why do you think chips are made in Taiwan, chat? Why do you think chips are made in Taiwan? Chips are made in Taiwan because the United States was confident that labor unions would not be able to choke their supply of chips for the military. So they went to a country where they killed all the union laborers and anybody who might be left wing. And they were like, the chips are safe here. We can make the chips here. God forbid a union to, go on strike. Well, China did the Cultural Revolution. How is that different? You're equating freeing people from feudalism and slavery and mass executions and starvations from landlords and warlords to killing a bunch of Taiwanese indigenous activists. That's what you're equating? During the period of martial law from 1949, the KMT prohibited the formation of new political parties, outlawed collective action, including labor strikes, and censored all media. By the way, chat, capitalism, they didn't have a problem with that. The United States of America had no problem declaring itself an ally to a country that censored all media and banned all collective action. It built Leninist-style party. Okay, dude, you mean fascist Nazi style? Because the KMT was most closely aligned with Adolf Hitler. Please stop. That's also another historical fact, that the KMT was super close to Adolf Hitler until the Germans decided to switch sides to Japan. Jesus Christ. Clarification needed, yeah. In 1997, the Taiwan Confederation of Trade Unions was formed. But Mike, they're free now. We only did 50 years of martial law. What do you mean? Don't you think Taiwan should be able to be free now and have all the American military bases at once? Poor little Taiwan. Like, no, bro, it's not my business.
Across the globe have less faith in democratic politics than any other age group. This isn't just in absolute terms, but also relative to older cohorts at comparable stages in life. Similarly, this year's youth study revealed that fewer than 6 in 10 young Europeans believe that democracy is the best form of government. There are lots of reasons that young people, especially in the West, might be skeptical of
what does democracy mean? That's such a dumb fucking question. What does democracy mean? Does democracy mean I vote and my vote is fucking meaningless and can never change policy and my views are never represented? Is that a fucking democracy? Is it having more than one political party? Like, what is the democracy exactly? To me, a democracy is a country where there is a rule by the people. It's in the fucking Greek. Well, what does rule by the people mean? It means that I get the policies I want because I'm in the majority. In my life in America, it's never been a democracy. No matter how many decades Americans say they deserve and believe we should have health care, we haven't gotten it. No matter how many decades where Americans say they want to invest in public transportation or high-speed rail, good housing or good schools, it doesn't fucking happen. You know what happens? More military spending. No matter how many people say, hey, can we stop giving money to Israel? Another 100 billion goes to Israel. There is nothing I can vote for my policies. And as far as democracy, you think the Senate is democratic, where Wyoming residents get 60 times the power of California residents? How the fuck is that a democracy? It's not.
Democracy. Western democracies have struggled since really 2008, but
what does Western democracies mean? I actually don't know. I don't know. I really don't.
Birth rates have also put young people at a structural disadvantage in democracies. Because there are less of them, they can be and often are outvoted by older generations. Unsurprisingly, this has made young people more open to authoritarian forms of government, like in China. In fact, just early this year, a YouGov poll revealed that more than 1 in 5 Gen Z Europeans, 21%, would favor an authoritarian rule under certain unspecified circumstances.
Yeah, that is a fucking meaningless number.
Another poll by Adam Smith Insights revealed that, somewhat astonishingly, a third of British 18 to 30-year-olds would prefer an authoritarian system over democracy. This leads us to our third point. Young people tend to be less afraid of communism. A 2025 report by Onward and Merlin Strategy found that positive views of communism are significantly higher among younger Brits.
Look at Gen X. I literally, Gen X. Look at Gen X, bro.
Than older generations. As a survey shows, the likelihood of someone reporting a positive view of communism drops sharply with age. Nearly a third of British
Chinese citizens have less say in their government. No, they don't. They just don't have a farcical group of controlled political parties. They have one communist party, and the political debate happens within that. Like that, like, and you can really see it because, I'm sorry, but a lot of the problems that Chinese people who advance to their government get addressed. Whereas in America, I don't see it.
British people aged 18 to 24 say that they view communism either very or fairly positively, while only 3% of those in the 55
Look at millennials, chat. Look at millennials.
to 64 age bracket say the same. This isn't just a British phenomenon either. A 2020 YouGov poll revealed that younger Americans also view communism far more favorably than their older counterparts. This would partly explain why younger people are apparently less wary of China.
Millennials and millennials. So like older millennials, like people older than me tend to be more like look at this Gen X gap. Jesus.
Which obviously is run by the Chinese Communist Party. The fourth potential reason is climate change. Unsurprisingly, given that they're more likely to be affected by it, young people are more concerned than older cohorts about climate change. YouGov polling consistently finds that young Brits are more likely than old Brits to cite the environment as one of the top issues facing the country, while Pew polling from early this year found that young people in developed countries are more willing to make lifestyle changes to curb the effects of climate change. While China is still the world's largest emitter, the Chinese leadership at least takes the issue of climate change seriously. The CCP have committed to peaking Chinese emissions before 2030.
My time in China showed that they are less willing to talk about politics. They keep their heads down concerning government and leave it to party members. Meanwhile, in the West, every dumbass thinks everyone needs to hear their dumb beliefs. I mean, I think it is dangerous to have the arrogance to believe that you know more than others. Like in kind of like a very general sense. I think that if you compare me to an individual person randomly selected, I would say I know more about politics than that person most of the time. Okay. That being said, I don't consider myself to know more about politics than all 300 million people. That would be fucking insane. And I think that's the problem with authoritarianism in general is the reason why democratic governance is a good idea is that there is a wisdom in crowds. And when so many people are telling you it's a problem, it's good to tap into that information and use it to steer government policy. Like that's the strength of democracy. And so I don't think you should be excessively gatekeepy. That being said, I do think that governance is like anything else, does require some knowledge and expertise and temperament. And if you don't have those things, you will be bad at doing it. And in America, we do not select people based on their skill at government. We select them based on their charisma or their ability to get money behind them. Trash can man, we'll try to get to it today.
And achieving carbon neutrality by 2060. And Chinese industry is proving to be the backbone of the energy transition. China already accounts for something like 90% of solar panel manufacturing and is expected to generate 60% of the world's energy by 2028. Conversely, the Trump administration seems pretty skeptical of climate change and has implemented policies to revive America's oil and gas industries as part of Trump's campaign promise to, quote, drill baby drill. At the same time, Trump has taken steps to undermine America's domestic renewables industry, including withdrawing many of the climate subsidies introduced by Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. The fifth and final potential reason is that China's limited cultural exports are generally directed more at younger people than older. The most obvious example is TikTok, which obviously is used more by Gen Z than any other generation. In 2023, a Social Sphere poll found that 66% of Gen Z Americans had a favorable view of TikTok, compared to only 46% of millennials who felt the same, as well as them generally being far less concerned about Chinese misuse of the platform. Are Chinese platforms popular with young...
Because there's no evidence of any misuse whatsoever. It's all fucking innuendo. Like, there's no evidence of China doing anything with TikTok. It's just innuendo. And actually, what they really hate about TikTok is that it's an algorithm that's focused on making you like videos you're watching. And so Americans despise that because Americans get educated on shit they didn't know, and then they change their position away from what the U.S. government position is, because the U.S. government position is not based on what you want or what you need. It's based on what the elites in America want and need. And what they want and need is to exploit China and contain China so their power is maximized so they can exploit more of the global south and more of labor in America. Isn't it banned in China? No, they just have a different version of it.
People include Temu and Shein, and more recently, Labubu dolls, made by Chinese toy maker Pop Mart, and especially popular with young people, have been interpreted by at least some commentators as a symptom of China's growing soft power. Obviously, this isn't hard data, but it seems plausible that more cultural exchange might make young people less anti-China.
Streak.
So there you have it.
Nice.
5 reasons why young people are generally more open to China than older generations. Again, this isn't intended as a complete explanation, so if there are any other reasons we can think of, or things we might have missed, then please let us know in the comments.
I will not be leaving a comment, but what I will say is they're missing out on some of the most important shit, which is people are actually seeing Chinese cities incredible development that is happening. They're seeing 50,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. They are seeing bridges and skyscrapers and housing complexes and the abolishment of extreme poverty. They're seeing China investing in its own country and being humble overseas, not bigfooting around the world with aircraft carriers, menacing countries. They don't see China supporting Israel's genocide of Gazans. China has condemned it while remaining relatively neutral toward Israel as far as in policy, which is honestly an L for China. If China took a stronger leadership role against Israel, it would rise their support with many generations even faster.
And if you're interested in the growing influence that China yields, then we have a whole segment on it in our magazine, Too Long, where we unpack if we're already living through the Chinese century. Plus, this Black Friday, we're running our cheapest...
We already are. And there was a clip I wanted to show you. The Chinese economy is already much, much bigger than the US.
You talk about China's rise in relation to the United States. And I want, from a big brain who was at the World Bank, I want to know which is the measure to use. Because, of course, if people look at nominal GDP, America is still much bigger than China. In terms of PPP, a different measure for GDP, China is now significantly bigger than the US. So which one should people trust?
Well, I think you can use both. I mean, let me tell you why I have preference for the PPP measure. First of all, because I work with income distribution, income inequality, and you use PPP because you want to say, okay, what is the welfare of people? So if I have this coffee and I have this water, it should be counted in terms of price the same everywhere. So it is true that in London, this is much more expensive than, let's suppose, in Kolkata. But when I talk about the welfare, the guy who is you're in Kolkata and he drinks this coffee and drinks this water should actually get the same utility, if you will, as I do. So in that sense, I'm in favor of PPP. China, actually, when you read Chinese papers and stuff in English, I unfortunately cannot read Chinese, but they very often insist on second largest economy. They never mention the largest economy. It's insistent and it's not accidental. It's always the second largest.
Is that from the whole, hide your strength, bide your time kind of?
It looks like that because they could actually say the largest economy. Yeah.
It's the polar opposite of British politics, where, our politicians still say everything's world leading and we're still, world number one in terms of aviation engines. They clutch at straws where we're still number one. The Chinese are saying, no, we're number two. We're not,
Maybe there is something to that. That's what Deng said, Of course, most people like to be number one. I'm sure they like to. But I've noticed that in the China Daily, for example, which is de facto official publication, and elsewhere, even in the political documents, there is always this mention of the second largest. In a positive way, like we are strong, we are big, but we're second.
Uh-oh, what's this? Overall, you just need a politics of cooperation in this world and mutual respect and human rights and a little bit more humility.
We are learning from a U.S. official that Ukraine has agreed to a peace proposal to end the war with Russia, saying that only, quote, minor details are outstanding now. The word from Ukraine's President Zelensky is much work still lies ahead. The country's national security chief, though, says its delegation has reached an understanding on the core terms of the deal. And there's also word that Zelensky could travel to the United States this month to sign it. What about Vladimir Putin? Today, U.S. and Russian officials are meeting in Abu Dhabi to discuss the plan. A spokesman for the U.S. Army Secretary, who's leading the delegation, says that those talks are going well and we remain optimistic. While people are clearly talking, the war rages on. Both Ukraine and Russia trading deadly new strikes overnight. Let's get to the White House. Elena Treen standing by for us at this hour. With this new development, new reporting from this U.S. official, what are you hearing about this supposed deal?
Yeah, look, this has been a crazy twist and turns to this entire negotiation over the past couple of days, Kate. But I can tell you that the Trump administration and White House officials really want to use the momentum of these recent talks and negotiations to try and see if they can bring this to the finish line. And I think that's part of why you're hearing a lot of these very optimistic and positive statements from key players on the ground. We heard similar, I should note, from Secretary of Marco Rubio following those talks in Geneva on Sunday. But I just want to get into what this U.S. official told our colleagues, Oren Lieberman and Natasha Bertrand. They said that Ukraine has agreed to a deal to end the war with Russia. Only minor details remain. They said, quote, the Ukrainians have agreed to the peace deal. There are some minor details to be sorted out, but they have agreed to a peace deal. That is a huge deal. We should just note, I think, like, full stop. That is a huge deal if Ukraine is actually backing this plan. As you mentioned, of course, the big question is whether the Russians could actually stomach a lot of this. Now, this comes as the U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll is in Abu Dhabi. He's meeting with Russian officials today. Of course, the goal there to see how much they can get them to compromise on some of these areas that the Ukrainians seem eager to work on. I will note that Ukraine's National Security Secretary, Rustem Umerov, he wrote about this in a post on X. I want to read this for you because what we're hearing from this U.S. official does seem to go a little bit beyond the position of the Ukrainians. The National Security Secretary said, quote, we now count on the support of our European partners in our further steps. He added that Ukraine looked forward to organizing a visit of Zelensky to the U.S. to, quote, complete final steps and make a deal with President Donald. So look, we have to see where this all comes down to. But again, I want to just reiterate how pretty quick this came together, because I'd remind you last week when details of this plan were initially emerging, at that point it was a 28-point plan that Steve Witkoff, one of the president's top advisors, had been quietly discussing with the Russians. There was a lot of skepticism from Ukraine and also the United States, European allies about whether or not it was in many ways a wish list for Russia. There were concerns that there were far too many concessions for the Ukrainians, not as many for the Russians, that it was too favorable. Now we're seeing, though, after a lot of these negotiations, particularly those in Geneva, as I mentioned on Sunday, it does appear that they were able to get this, working, we've heard Rubio call this a breathing document, this working deal to a place where the Ukrainians feel confident that they can go as far as this U.S. official is telling CNN today into agreeing to this deal. So big question now is whether they can take this to the Russians, get the Russians on board. And if that's actually a possibility, this could be a major breakthrough in something that has really been kind of, eluding the president and this administration for months now in their goal to finally find an end to this war between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, would be a major breakthrough for sure. The question about what's Russia going to do about it and say about it is also a Elena, thank you so much for the reporting. John?
All right, with us now is Senator Jeanne Shaheen, a Democrat from New Hampshire, the ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, what do you make of this? I mean, this is a U.S. official saying that Ukraine has agreed to a proposal. We don't know what proposal, frankly. We don't know if this is a proposal the Russians have agreed to, and we're not even sure how the Ukrainians feel about it other than the comment from the U.S. official. But what questions do you have?
Well, I think it's premature to suggest that there's a final deal, but I understand that good progress was made yesterday in negotiations, and we'll see how the Russians respond to taking some of the items off the table. The original proposal was obviously a Putin wish list for everything they want, including no Ukrainian option for joining NATO, no NATO enlargement in the future, capping the size of Ukraine's military. None of that should be acceptable to the United States, to the Ukrainians, or to the Europeans. So the devil is in the details here. We need to see what kind of security guarantees are being provided to Ukraine, because what we've seen time and again is that Russia makes a commitment. They made a commitment not to go into Georgia. They went into Georgia in 2008, signed the Budapest agreement in the 90s. They said, we won't attack Ukraine and they should give up their nuclear weapons. Well, they've attacked Ukraine now in Crimea. Then they went into Ukraine. So we can't trust what Russia says and what Putin says. So what we need is real security guarantees that are going to ensure that Ukraine is protected, that its sovereignty is protected in the future.
You said progress has been made. I guess specifically progress in what direction? What progress do you think there would need to be for you to support this and really for the Ukrainians to feel comfortable?
Well, again, I think we need to have real security guarantees, as I've said. I think any cap and any ability for Russia to determine how Ukraine's military moves forward is unacceptable. Ukraine right now has the biggest army in Europe. They are the most technologically advanced. We want that army on the ally side fighting with Europe and the United States in any future conflict. So we need to make sure that that is protected. We need to make sure that Ukraine's sovereignty is protected, that Russia understands that any attempt to go back in Ukraine is not only going to be met with European force, but with United States force. We also know that Russia is arming in a way that doesn't just allow them to go into Ukraine, but allows them to go after NATO countries and Eastern European countries. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future, and there needs to be some accountability. The idea in the original proposal that anybody who committed war crimes would not be held accountable for that, that's not acceptable. We can't allow an aggressor like Vladimir Putin to get away with that, because it then sends a message.
The United States of America has exempted itself from war crimes tribunals with the invasion of the Hague Act. You personally supported targeting the ICCC because they indicted Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes. What are you talking about? The United States of America, every sitting vice president, every former vice president just buried Dick Cheney in a love fest. The fuck are you talking about? War criminals can't get away with it. You love war criminals getting away with it. The question is, should we have a war continue and drag on, killing tens of thousands of more people? Stop pretending like you care about war criminals getting punished. You don't. Shut the fuck up. This is really, I find this to be the most disgusting take.
to China, to Iran, to North Korea, to our other adversaries.
Look, we obviously need to see what is being discussed now, what exactly the plan is that's on the table. We'll find out more, presumably, over the next few hours. I want to rewind, if I can, 24 hours, because yesterday morning at this time, we were told that the White House might have a plan as soon as yesterday to extend Obamacare subsidies. They even floated some of the details of that plan, a 2-year extension, a cap on subsidies on income levels 700% above the poverty level, some basic required minimums there. Were this yesterday morning, and if that were the actual plan being discussed, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's very positive that President Trump is talking about coming to the table to address this issue. There is real urgency to get this done because people are seeing their insurance rates dramatically, and the other affordability crisis that Americans are facing, that's unacceptable because we're going to have millions of Americans lose their health insurance if that goes forward. I think some of the details that have come out about what the president were proposing would have been very good for Democrats. I think Democrats are willing to come to the table. I understood that a number of our Republican colleagues also wanted to get this done. It's in their interest. They understand that this is an issue not just for blue states, but for red states, and that people don't care what party you're in. If they can't afford their health insurance, that means they can't get the health care they need.
So the second part of this question, and why I tried to rewind to yesterday morning, is since yesterday morning, the president in the White House seemed to have backed off. The proposal didn't come yesterday, isn't coming today, at least as far as we know. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Speaker of the House Mike Johnson basically told the president Republicans won't support this. So what does it tell you that there may not be Republican support for the White House plan?
That's unfortunate. I think if Republicans, they need to recognize that 57% of these premium recipients are in states they're in Republican congressional districts, and 76% of them are in states Donald Trump won in the last election. We've already heard from President Trump's pollsters, 2 of whom have said if the Republicans don't come to the table, if they don't address this, they're going to pay at the polls next November. And that's what we're going to see. So it's very short.
Why did you guys fucking vote to end the shutdown then? Wait, why did you vote to end the shutdown? If this is such a winner, why'd you vote to end the shutdown? What? The Chinese embassy in the United States, which openly supports, is now promoting Hassan Piker. Piker openly campaigned with Zohran, another example of the red-green axis operating in real time. The red-green axis? So where is Hassan's FARA registration? Because he's not afforded... That's Laura Loomer. You are replying to Laura Loomer, sir. You are replying to Laura Loomer, sir. She's practically Israel's ambassador. Like, what are you talking about? What are you fucking talking about? Oh God, dude, it's so funny. They're malding. And here's the thing, chat. There are certain moments in history, there are hinge points in history where things make a dramatic change. And it's only dramatic because it is the surface layer that has inculcated a certain worldview as acceptable, while underneath, the grassroots and regular people have been busying themselves with a different reality. And it's only when the establishment powers become aware of what is going on beneath their purview and they try to exercise change and coercion that the rupture occurs. And ladies and gentlemen, a rupture is occurring.
Short-sighted for Speaker Johnson, for other Republicans to say they're not willing to address this, because the voters are going to hold them accountable, because people can't afford their health insurance. And that has ramifications for people who can't afford their health insurance. It has ramifications for the whole healthcare system as we look at people going to emergency rooms, and the cost of care there is much higher.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for being with us.
US media reporting that Ukraine has apparently accepted the American peace proposal. Let's talk to our international correspondent Alex Rossi and our defence and security analyst Professor Michael Clark with me in the studio here. So Alex, to you first of all. So this is It seems like we've moved forwards, according to American media, but we're not clear whether this is just a slight embellishment on what we knew last night. Tell us where we are with what we know about what Ukraine has agreed to.
Well, it is all fairly unclear. What is clear is that President Zelensky and the Ukrainians are in a difficult position, obviously have been for 11 years since the Russians invaded Crimea and then the full-scale invasion. But this appears to be the answer to what Trump is putting forwards with his initiative. We're hearing, I'll just read you these lines, Rustem Umerov, the National Security Advisor, and a US official say that there is now an understanding on a proposal that has been reached, but details still need to be worked out. So let's rewind a little bit. The 28-point peace plan that the Americans kind of sort of sidelined everybody with when they came out with it, discussions in Geneva. Those discussions then led, we think, to a 19-point peace plan. The Ukrainians were saying after those meetings that they had kind of agreed to that. And now this appears to be confirmation of that. But of course, the big question in all of this is, will the Russians agree to the changed text on the 28-point peace plan? The likelihood is that that isn't going to happen. We've already heard from the Kremlin that anything that's acceptable to the Europeans would not be acceptable to the Russians. Their maximalist demands, of course, will have been watered down. So
well, if the Europeans are not a party to the war, so I mean, like, you're a cheerleader. It's like saying the cheerleaders demand 48 points on the board, sir. Oh, sorry, 49. Let's make a nice even a number that's actually easy to get to. 49. They demand a blowout at 49 points. Well, they're not on the field. So what the fuck are you talking about? What are they going to do? Not cheer?
They are unlikely to go for it. So what we are seeing is diplomacy about how to deal with Donald Trump's diplomacy. The Ukrainians know that they cannot flatly say no to Donald Trump. They need to flatter him. They need to engage with the process. That's what seems to be happening here. They, of course, will hope that the Russians will reject. That, again, though, is unlikely because Vladimir Putin knows the man that is Donald Trump very well, and he will know how to engage and how to deal with this ball when it comes back. He will likely say, it's a very complex situation. We need more time. We need further discussions. But yes, in theory, we are willing to go ahead with this. So that's where we stand at the moment.
Michael, do you concur with this, that it, although we haven't got to this stage before in terms of a peace proposal on the table, it is following the same pattern that we have seen in the negotiations where Ukraine agrees to stuff, but then when it goes back to Russia, it all seems to get thrown into the long grass.
Square brackets. It's all about square brackets. That Kizletsia, who's the Deputy Foreign Minister, said last night, he said, we've agreed the document, which means the 19 points that Alex was talking about is agreed, which is to say that's a document that can go back to the president. And in it are square brackets. So there's all the things we agree, and then the things that we're still stuck on are in square brackets. And the American report said a few minor details. No, the things in square brackets are the big issues, the things that they can't agree on. And so the idea is what's in square brackets is what President Zelensky and President Trump will have to talk about probably at the weekend or next week. When this big meeting happens in Washington, Zelensky goes to Washington. It'll be a really critical meeting.
So basically, Zelensky is going to say, okay, so this, okay. I have to say, for the first time in a while, I'm not sure. I'm what my analysis is. Because from a material point of view, it is in the interests of the United States and European weapon manufacturers and for center-left, the centrist corporate politics to keep this war going because it's really good for profits. And it's a really good justification to increase defense spending in European countries in general and the West overall. But on the other hand, it's very unpopular with everyone who's like a human being and not a ghoul. And it seems like Donald Trump personally is opposed to this war. So I wonder if I tend to be on the side of the weapons manufacturers or the capitalists, the warmongers are in the catbird seat in government in the West. So they're going to get their way. So I'm skeptical of this. I really am skeptical that Trump is actually going to pull it off or is going to enforce any kind of deal on Ukraine. That being said, on the other hand, if Trump is just intransigent, the Europeans are not going to step up. They're politicians. The war in Ukraine is unpopular. They don't want to have to pay more money to give to Ukraine. They don't want to put their own troops in Ukraine. I think the U.S. right now is trying to pivot to Latin America and turn it into America's personal colony and destroy any kind of left-wing government in Latin America because they're trying to keep Latin Americans poor so they can be exploited. So I kind of think that America, especially under the fascist Republican Party, their foreign policy goal is to pivot to Latin America and suppress development of Brazil and Mexico. Because if Brazil and Mexico develop, then they could be a counterpower to the United States in the Western Hemisphere. So I think the U.S. is like prioritizing containing Brazil and Mexico and obviously Venezuela.
He's really got to go in and bat for his country because he'll have to deal with whatever's in the square brackets, the really big issues. How big will the armed forces be in Ukraine? What are they going to do about territory? Are they really going to give up the Donbass? It's a whole series of issues. Is Russia going to be the official second language? What about are war crimes going to be cancelled? All these hundreds of thousands of war crimes? I don't know, but I bet you that those are all the things in square brackets. And the things that are not in the brackets are what we agree on. That's fine. So there's a two-stage process, I think, which is that one is that Zelensky and Trump, or Zelensky's got to go to Trump and get some sort of American endorsement of this version, and then that version, with some American endorsement, goes to Russia and they reject it. And then we're back where we started. And the question then is, how angry is President Trump and who does he blame for the fact that this has run into the... That's where I think we're going sometime in the next 10 days. Might be wrong. I mean, maybe there'll be a breakthrough. Maybe there will. But the biggest meeting is the one between Zelensky and Trump, which is going to come up soon. Nobody's putting a date on it yet. It's got to be after Thanksgiving. Just about plausible. It might be over the weekend, more likely, I'm guessing, next week.
And Alex, do you think, I mean, if we do make progress on this, is this following the pattern of what we saw in Gaza, that Trump sends out his envoys, they get almost to the point, and then Trump goes out to sort of close the deal, as it were, and be there for all the big handshakes?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to be kind about how this is working, he's putting everything out there. He's getting the wish list from the Russians of what they want. This starts as kind of the outer realms of what this discussion is going to be, and then you work backwards and you try and meet somewhere in between and you try and get a deal. But I mean, it's
the complete reversal of the way diplomacy normally works.
It's very, very, very unorthodox. I mean, normally, look, wind back for the Middle East peace process and look at Oslo. Weeks and weeks, months and months of negotiations between diplomats before anybody even got close to announcing anything. In this case, what we're seeing is just the huge announcement very, very quickly, and then actually people scratching their heads, what's all this about? This seems very far removed from the reality of where anybody thinks that an agreement can really be made practically. So, yeah, it's extraordinarily unorthodox. Will it work in this case? I think it is different to the totally, Gaza case.
Yeah. Much bigger issue.
Yeah. And also, I think the Ukrainians, contrary to what Donald Trump says, do actually have some cards to play. They do have European allies. Losing America completely would be a disaster, but not necessarily the end of the story. They still have a vote. They still have a say.
It's known as diplomacy by envoy, as opposed to diplomacy by diplomats. So the State Department is almost moribund in this case. The National Security Council in America is a shadow of its former self. And all the diplomacy has been worked out by envoys. In other words, somebody that Trump picks because he trusts them. They've come from a different area of business or whatever it might be. No diplomatic background, but they've got the president's ear, and he sends out these powerful people, powerful to him, and it's diplomacy by envoy. And professional diplomacy just stands aside and has to somehow pick up the pieces when the envoys have agreed something. Completely different. Doesn't always go wrong. I mean, Richard Holbrooke was an envoy, and he was a really tough, vicious character. But my goodness, he knew his stuff. And, you know, he was in the 1990s and the year 2000s. And Holbrooke was a real bully, but he was effective because he did his background work. He had years of experience behind him. He was a really effective envoy. Some of these envoys have come from completely different areas and they're thrown into world politics. And they're up against Russian professionals. You know, Russian professional diplomats who've been doing this for years. And, of course, they wipe the floor with them.
I mean, Lavrov is one of the most experienced diplomats in the world, and he's dealing with people like Steve Witkoff. So we'll see.
Who's a very nice man.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean to say...
Oh, God. This is why you've got to watch. See, Bari Weiss doesn't wants you to watch global media, okay? This is Sky News, which is a right-wing outlet in the UK. they have enough distance from Trump where they can say what they think. And it's very, very funny. It's very funny to hear how incompetent Donald Trump is considered.
He knows what he's talking about in diplomacy, but he's a genuinely nice man. Trump trusts him, and he's a good real estate man. But
by the way, if somebody calls you a genuinely nice person, I think generally they're insulting you. Because they can't come up with anything in specific. So instead of saying like, oh, he's very sharp, or he's very bright, or he's just really skilled, they're just kind of filling in. They're filling in where a like substantive point would be made with nice. Because how can you prove someone's not nice, right? Like, god damn, that's damning with faint praise.
World of global politics? No.
I think the other thing that's worth bearing in mind, underpinning all of this, is the question about Donald Trump's attention span. If this doesn't go his way, if momentum doesn't gather, if this initiative doesn't look as though it is going towards a solution, what does he do next? Does he just lose interest and walk away? I mean, I think that's the big question.
Yeah. Well, we've been saying for a while, he's zigzagging his way out of this war.
Indeed.
And, all zigzags, and the zigzags matter because whether he's on a zig or a zag when he leaves the whole scene will depend on who he blames.
It's giving when Aretha Franklin couldn't compliment Taylor Swift, so she said beautiful gowns. GOP lawmaker Okay, so here, this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Right here. This is... Oh, what the fuck? This is the conflict between Donald Trump and the neoconservative base of the Republican Party establishment.
Missiles, as Russian cruise missiles and attack drones have been taking aim at Ukraine's capital, an assault that is coming just after the Ukrainian President Zelensky publicly appealed for the attacks to stop amid renewed peace talks that are underway right now. Those talks have largely been centered around a 28-point plan from President Trump that has been widely seen as favoring Russia, but also has been facing some intense pushback here at home in Congress and also from European leaders abroad. These efforts have spurred Zelensky into a thank you tour online, where we saw in the span of about an hour today, he thanked 13 different world leaders on social media. That includes President Trump personally, as he did on Sunday, after the president said that Ukraine's leaders have expressed zero gratitude for the U.S.-led peace efforts. Of course, by my colleague Daniel Dale's count, he says President Zelensky has actually thanked the United States, including Trump directly, at least 78 times since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2020. Still, the White House says they believe the president's statement is what has led to progress.
The president put that statement out over the weekend, and since then, there have been very productive conversations between the president's national security team and the Ukrainian delegation. In fact, yesterday, Secretary Rubio, Special Envoy Witkoff were in Geneva, and they were able to thoroughly go through this 28-point peace plan that the United States offered with input from both the Russian side and the Ukrainian side, and they were really able to fine-tune the points. And so now there are just a couple points of disagreement that our teams continue to work through. So the president remains hopeful and optimistic that a deal can be struck.
Ukraine's European allies have been pushing a counter-proposal that is more in line with what Ukraine wants to see happen here. This is the reaction from a Republican House member who says the European counter plan is 10 times better than the Witkoff Ukrainian surrender plan.
The chat, if you don't know, Don Bacon is the representative from, I believe, Omaha, right? I think Don Bacon is Omaha, Nebraska. Damn, I'm good at this. Pew, pew. Now, if you don't know this, chat, Omaha, Nebraska is left wing. The reason why, however, there's a Republican there is because the Democratic Party has been dedicated to losing that district intentionally for 6 years because they're worried that a birdie-crat will win. That's literally true. In fact, the former Democrat endorsed Don Bacon. The former Democratic representative for that district went outside the party, endorsed Don Bacon to defeat the progressive candidate.
The president's senior advisor, Steve Witkoff. This congressman says that the European plan should be the plan and not go backwards because Ukraine is a sovereign state and should not be forced to live on its knees to dictator Putin. I want to go straight to the source of that statement tonight. Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska joins me now. And Congressman, obviously you feel very strongly about these two dynamics that are at play here. Can I first ask you, do you think it's fair to say that President Zelensky has not said thank you to the United States enough?
No, it's not true, unfortunately, what the president has said and the vice president. They've both made these claims. President Zelensky has thanked the United States and President Biden before him many times. And so it's just not being honest. I don't know why the president says this. And he's, I guess they claim it leads to negotiating. I don't see how it does. What I've seen since the president came in uses like punching boxing gloves on Zelensky and uses velvet gloves on Putin.
The reality, Reagan for president, Goldwater, both of them led directly to Trump. That's what's funny about this. What I will say about this is Donald Trump doesn't respect people that are nice to him.
And you just see the contrast. One's the invader, though, and one's the victim. One wants democracy, and one is has murdered his rivals. I don't understand why the president keeps abusing and talking down to Zelensky, who wants to be on our side. And Putin hates it. This doesn't make sense. I'm an old Ronald Reagan guy. I believe in peace through strength. Reagan stood up to the Soviet Union or the Russians.
Reagan retreated when there was a major terrorist attack on Marine barracks. He retreated. He cut and run.
At the time, Eisenhower did. I don't know why this president can't have moral clarity on what's going on.
What do you think is going to happen with these talks that are playing out?
But what happened Thursday was one of the most embarrassing things I've seen while in office. I put it in the same tier of the botched withdrawal out of Afghanistan, which I thought was an embarrassment as someone who's deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan multiple times. It really bothered me. And then seeing our president like handing over the leadership of the free world and just giving it away and not standing by a country that's being invaded, that a pro-democracy. But if you look at those 28 points that came out last Thursday, they were a surrender. They were basically telling Ukraine to surrender to Russia and be vulnerable to Russian attack for decades. It was no way that any American president should have ever signed off on this package. Now, I think since then, the Europeans have weighed in. I think Secretary Rubio, who I respect, has weighed in, and the Ukrainians have weighed in. And I suspect these 28 points have been modified significantly. And I really do think the European plan is something I could live with, I could embrace. I don't think the Russians want it because they want to have Ukraine as a vassal. And this does not. We want Ukraine to be an independent, and that's not what Russia wants. So that's why we should be providing weapons to Ukraine and putting tough sanctions on Russia, because we've got to break the will of President Putin.
Joining me now to talk about this, Ambassador William Taylor, former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine. Good morning. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So there's a lot of fallout from what looked like a kind of chaotic weekend. And I know a long time ago you once described working within a Trump diplomatic circle as a kind of snake pit. So what do you see in how this is playing out? The Rubio versus the Vance versus the sort of Russia people versus the not.
So the original plan that came out last week had such a Russian slant that you had to worry about where it actually came. And it seemed to be everything that the Russians had wanted. People suggested that the Russians may have written it and given it to Steve Witkoff, who then proposed it. As you say, over the weekend, there have been more discussions, this time with the Ukrainians and the Europeans.
So was this a good thing in that it forced everyone back to the table and to work off of something, work off of a draft?
I think it's a very good thing that people are talking. I think it's a very good thing that the initiative is still there. It's not just status quo. It's not just letting the fight go on. It is taking active measures to talk about it. And we're moving in the right direction toward an agreement, a proposal that has sovereignty for the Ukrainians, has security for the Ukrainians, and that's good for Europe and it's good for the United States.
Now,
So
what
I
do
think
you
we're
mean by
going in the right
security?
direction.
This is one of the big arguments, which is how many troops can Ukraine have? How many troops is Russia okay with? Is there a gray zone? There are a lot of questions there, even about NATO status, right? Who will come to defend Ukraine if Russia comes back? What security guarantees are you seeing starting to emerge? Do you make sense, or given Russia's history, don't make sense?
Russia's not going to like any security guarantees that we or the Europeans give to the Ukrainians. That's given. But they don't get a choice. The Russians don't get a choice in that. The security guarantee for Ukraine needs to come in the first instance from Ukrainian military. And we
Isn't
need to
this the guy
support
who was
them.
talking to Victoria Nuland when she said, fuck the EU? Yes, I believe it is.
Equip them, train them, and that kind of business. That can.
Mike, am I crazy? Why is Ukraine the one that has to limit their military? Because they're losing the war. Typically, losers of wars are the ones who accept concessions and controls because they lost. You can get a hint that they're losing by the fact that large swaths of their territory are occupied. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be an asshole. I'm saying this because the media miasma of stupidity is so pervasive in this country that people cannot look at a war and go, okay, smaller country with a quarter of its land occupied. Why is it giving concessions to the larger country with more, with more troops and ability to replace losses? Because they're losing. It's not complicated. And the reason why they have to give concessions is because Donald Trump doesn't want to support Ukraine anymore. Like that's what's happening, is the United States is betraying Ukraine. The Ukrainians fought this war with the understanding that the U.S. would be behind them. That's what Joe Biden promised. He promised something he couldn't promise, which was the continued unwavering support of the United States to the Ukrainian people. That was a lie. The American people were not interested, or at least they didn't care enough to vote against Trump on this issue. And so we're now facing a reality of there are many members of the American foreign policy apparatus that want the United States to continue supporting Ukraine, because they recognize that separating Russia from Europe weakens both, thereby increasing the relative power of the United States. And by fomenting discord between Russia and Europe, America could sell more weapons. American weapons corporations could sell more to Europeans. What do I think the proper move is for Ukraine? I don't think it's under their control. Ukraine is a puppet of European and American power. They can't produce the weapons that they need to win this war. They don't have the finances to fund it. Gold is the sinew of war. Ukraine doesn't have it. They rely on American and European support. So if American and European support was withdrawn, Ukraine cannot fight the war. Ukraine is dependent upon external factors in order to be able to prosecute the war. You're asking me what I think Ukraine should do, and it's like, well, what are the conditions? What are they getting promised?
The second part of the security guarantee is, as you say, the Europeans who are standing up. The Europeans are talking about putting troops on the ground after the fighting stops to be sure, exactly what you say, that the Russians don't come back. And the Americans, Donald Trump, President Trump, has talked about providing air support for that European force on the ground in Ukraine. That's a security guarantee. Another security part of the security guarantee is EU membership. That's going to be important for the
EU, not NATO, but some kind of membership somewhere.
NATO's still on the table.
Okay.
Now it's on the table. In this kind of bad Russian-oriented, Russian-slanted proposal, NATO was not on the table. It's back on the table in the current proposal.
Okay, so CNN has learned that the U.S. Army Secretary Steve Driscoll is actually holding talks with Russian officials in Abu Dhabi. Russia's foreign minister, Lavrov, I think, has been accusing the U.S. and Ukraine of twisting up the original plan. He said this just a few moments ago.
If the spirit and letter of Anchorage are lost in the key understandings we have documented, then of course the situation will be fundamentally different. But so far, I repeat, no one has officially communicated anything to us.
Right. Exactly right. And what we said, the Russians are not going to like this. The Russians don't get a choice about whether Ukraine joins NATO or whether the Europeans put the support into Ukraine after the fighting stops. Lavrov is of course, angry about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ambassador, don't you think that point is going to be the most challenging one because of Trump's tendency to want to acquiesce to anything that Putin wants?
Maybe, but there's another Trump tendency, which is he wants a deal. And he's going to have, if he's going to get a deal, he's going to have to put pressure on Lavrov, but in particular on Putin.
What about is it true that Russia feels like they need to come to the table more now than ever because of winter coming? I mean, is that true that they're really hurting from a gas perspective, from a energy perspective?
I think the Europeans have supported the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have hit hard at the Russian energy system as well. The Russians are hitting the Ukrainians well, there's no doubt about that. But the Ukrainians have been able to hit their refining capacity, and they've also been starting to squeeze the revenues that come from Russian sales of oil and gas. And that's having an effect too. All of that is the pressure that we need to get Putin to the table.
Oh, did you guys see this?
Democratic Senator.
Okay, so Mark Kelly is a former astronaut. He was a captain in the Navy, and big decorated veteran, right? And that was one of the centrist Democrats idea is, well, if you get somebody who's a successful military leader, when they run for office, the right wing will not be able to call them cowardly, will not be able to call them socialistic, will not be able to attack their patriotism. We'll have to respect their service, right? Like that's the grand theory. Now, it was definitively proven wrong in 2004 with the swift boating of John Kerry. But yet, for some reason, Democratic centrists just keep pushing this idea over and over and over again. Well, Mark Kelly made a video saying that troops have the right to refuse unlawful orders. And in response, he's being threatened with having his rank reduced, his pension reduced, and perhaps even court-martialed.
Mark Kelly is hitting back after the Pentagon made the highly unusual announcement that it is launching an investigation into him, even threatening to recall the retired Navy captain to active duty to court-martial him. At the center of this is the video that Kelly and 5 other Democrats made calling on U.S. troops to defy illegal orders. The president called that, quote, seditious behavior punishable by death. Kelly and the other Democrats say they were just reminding service members of their oath to the Constitution. Let's get to CNN's Elena Treen live at the White House this morning. To say this is unusual is an incredible understatement, Elena. And now Senator Kelly is really hitting back.
Yeah, and it's not just unusual, it's unprecedented, John, what we're seeing, this Pentagon investigation into Kelly, a retired Navy veteran, retired astronaut. And it's because what the Pentagon is calling, quote, serious allegations of misconduct. Now, part of the reason that Kelly is the one being targeted, he's one of 6 House Democrats, or excuse me, 6 Democratic lawmakers who were part of that video, and they were all either former members of the military or former members of the U.S. intelligence community. But the reason Kelly is being targeted here is because he's one of the people that can actually be recalled to service to face, as you mentioned, a potential court-martial or administrative punishment. That's something that Hegseth actually pointed out in a post yesterday, breaking some of this down, saying that that essentially Kelly is one of the people that they could recall to face accountability for that video. Now, as you mentioned, Kelly is pushing back. He's been very defensive in some of the remarks we've heard from him responding to this. I want you to take a listen to what we heard from him on MS Now yesterday.
We know what political violence is, and we know what causes it, too. The statements that Donald Trump made is insightful, incites others. He's got millions of supporters. People listen to what he says more so than anybody else in the country. And he should be careful with his words. But I'm not going to be silenced here. Is it stressful? I've been stressed, things more important than Donald Trump trying to intimidate me into shutting my mouth and not doing my job.
So very defiant Mark Kelly there, John. And look, I mean, we've heard now from a number of lawmakers, responding to a lot of this, including many Republicans and some who have argued, people like, and also veteran, but Republican lawmaker Don Bacon, who's argued essentially that they believed, that video that they put out, these 6 different Democratic lawmakers, maybe that was ill-advised. But the response from the Trump administration has been so strong, particularly that post from the president arguing that they engaged in seditious behavior punishable by death. That's where they started to lose some of the moral high ground on this. So continue to watch for this. We'll have to see what potential accountability that Kelly could face as part of this investigation. But again, it's unprecedented and one that a lot of people, I think, in Washington are a bit uncomfortable with.
No, the Secretary of Defense, even this morning, is going after Senator Kelly on Twitter anew. Elena Treen at the White House this morning. Thank you very much.
More lawmakers are responding to the Pentagon's announcement that it's investigating Senator Mark Kelly, a retired U.S. Navy captain, in light of, quote, serious allegations of misconduct, end quote. This after Kelly joined 5 other Democratic members of Congress in a video urging troops to disobey illegal orders. And that video prompted President Trump to label their actions, quote, seditious behavior punishable by death. And now the U.S. Defense Department says it could recall Kelly to active duty to face a court-martial or administrative punishment.
I've had a missile blow up next to my airplane. I've been shot down, nearly shot down multiple times. My wife, Gabby Giffords, meeting with her constituents, shot in the head. 6 people killed around her. We know what political violence is, and we know what causes it, too. The statements that Donald Trump made is insightful, incites others. He's got millions of supporters. People listen to what he says more so than anybody else in the country. And he should be careful with his words. But I'm not going to be silenced here.
An official familiar with the matter tells me this morning that the Pentagon is looking at reducing Kelly's rank and pension pay, and that's what was meant by administrative punishment. So I want to bring in CNN senior national security reporter Zachary Cohen. Zachary, what more are you learning from your sources about this probe?
Yep, I'm also hearing that Hegseth and the Pentagon are looking at a variety of options, ways to effectively punish Senator Kelly for participating in this video, where lawmakers did encourage troops to remember that they can refuse and have an obligation to refuse illegal orders. Now, obviously, Senator Kelly is not the only lawmaker to appear in that video, but he is the only one who can technically be recalled into active duty. And that's what Hegseth and his team are looking at, using the military justice system potentially to respond to this video. And also, you know, as far as administrative punishments go, you're right. I'm also hearing that they could try to knock him down in rank. They could try to lower his pension. But if he's court-martialed, I'm also told that he'll be treated like any other defendant in that case. So really, it does seem they're trying to make an example out of Senator Kelly. Now, as you showed previously, he is being defiant. He is saying that this is about politics and that he's being targeted for political purposes by the administration. He responded to the announcement from Secretary Hegseth and the Pentagon by saying, if this is meant to intimidate me and other members of Congress from doing our jobs, it won't work. He says, he goes on to say that he is given too much to this country to be bullied by people who value their power more than the Constitution.
And just to be clear, it's unusual for a veteran to be brought back to active duty, to be court-martialed for something that didn't happen while they were in service, right?
Absolutely. It's very unusual.
Yeah. All right, Zachary, thanks so much.
Pretty extraordinary developments indeed. I want to get some more analysis right now. I want to bring in former Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary under President Biden, Sabrina Singh. She's also a CNN Global Affairs commentator. I'm curious, Sabrina, what went through your mind when you first saw the news from the Defense Department that it may recall Senator Kelly to active duty to face a court-martial or what they call administrative?
Well, you know, it's not a surprise that Donald Trump is using different levers of the government to go after his so-called perceived political enemies. You know, we've seen that with the Department of Justice and now with DOD using the Uniform Code of Military Justice to justify these actions. So while it wasn't a surprise, I think if Hegseth does follow through with this threat, it would be unprecedented. I mean, we have nearly 2 million veterans in this country, and they have to be fearing for potential retribution of, you know, speaking out against this administration. What does that mean for them as well? So it would be unprecedented for the military to do this, and it would certainly send a ripple effect, not just with veterans, but I think throughout the military community.
And as I just reported, an official told me that they're looking at reducing his rank and pension payment if he's not court-martialed. It was interesting because Pete Hegseth, the DOD secretary, or Secretary of War, should we say, on X, called him commander and not captain. Yeah. Commander is a rank down. Right. But Mark Kelly was a captain in the Navy.
He was a combat pilot. He was an astronaut. He is someone that has...
Well, that's the point, chat. The point is that this is a swift boating. They don't give a shit. Hegseth was a failed fucking officer who couldn't even get past 04, and he was basically forced out of the military. He's most famous. I'm sorry, chat. I got distracted by a tweet. Basically, the swift boating is ridiculous. The swift boating is ridiculous. I was like, I saw a tweet that was so fucking stupid, it actually blew my mind. Sorry about that. I got one guy by my feed updating a reply to me. They don't give a shit about any of these honors or medals or ranks or experience or veteran status. They don't give a shit. They're right wingers. It's all, are you subservient to Big Daddy? That's all they care about. They don't care about any of this shit. They believe in fucking nothing. It's important you understand that.
Served multiple tours of duty overseas, you know, put his line on the line for his country. You saw him talk about how he had something explode by an aircraft that he was flying. This is someone that has decades of service and that has done something to protect Americans overseas. And so, you know, what Hegseth is doing by calling him commander, I mean, of course, that was very intentional by Pete Hegseth to put that out there. But what he's doing is he's saying that what Mark Kelly said in his video, literally citing the Uniform Code of Military Justice, hauling him back in under those same provisions, it's just like a circular logic. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't think a court is going to uphold that. But of course, this is going to have ripple effects, I think, for this country. And that's why you're seeing so many people speak out. Even if you didn't agree with the video that those 6 lawmakers put out, it's still free speech. They still have the right to do that. And so their rights are protected by our Constitution.
Let's take a step back for a moment, Sabrina, while I have you. Explain why and in what circumstances a former service member who's no longer in active duty could be recalled to active duty status to face a court-martial.
Well, that's why this would be something so unprecedented. I mean, he's been a United States senator for many years now. Actions taken, they're claiming that actions taken by this video would allow him to be recalled back in. But that's only if he committed some type of crime during service. So again, something like this, I think, is what is making the military.
No one on CNN is addressing the fact that you don't have to obey an unlawful order because they're too stupid and we don't have anybody with basic literacy in, like, do you think Sabrina Singh knows anything about the fucking military? She was the Pentagon press secretary under Biden. She doesn't know anything about lawful war doctrine. Who the fuck? Okay, I gotta know more now. Who is she related to? Who the fuck is she related to? What parent of hers is blue? The CEO of Sony India. She married to Mike Smith, the political director for Nancy Pelosi. So, nepotistic hire. Daughter of a capitalist. Of course she doesn't know anything. By the way, this is something that you'll often find. Anybody who works in communications, typically in politics, is a Nepo baby. Like 95% of the time. The only exception is when somebody has a grassroots candidate who wins power and slowly builds up over time with a circle of people they trust. Sometimes they'll put those people in communications. But 95% of the time when somebody works in communications and politics, they are a Nepo baby.
Like former veterans, very concerned because we have nearly 2 million people in our country that have served. And what does that mean if they speak out against this administration? Are they going to be court-martialed and called back in? It would really be a scary precedent to set if this administration does this.
They're going to lose some of their pay, too,
right,
that they continue receiving, even when they're not in active duty.
Yeah, and on that note about the veterans, another veteran in Congress, Republican Don Bacon of Nebraska, wrote on X, quote, amateur hour once again at the Department of Defense. I thought the video by 6 Dems was unnecessary and foolish, but the threats of sedition charges and court-martial in response are also crazy. Let's show some common sense and restraint.
I think he's right. You might not agree with the video. You might not agree with the timing of the video, but everything that they said in there, it's truthful, and it's protected by their own free speech. I think it is a bit of amateur hour that we're seeing yet again from Pete Hegseth. And I mean, it's notable that Pete Hegseth, the timing of this, when he's doing it, his Army secretary is overseas negotiating a potential peace deal with Ukraine. Hegseth has been broadly sidelined from those negotiations. So he's playing to an audience of one, Donald Trump, and he knows he has to reassert relevancy, and he's doing it through his actions with Mark Kelly.
It's interesting because the Secretary of the Army is in Abu Dhabi meeting with Russian officials on this potential Ukrainian deal. Let's see what happens on that front, but you make an important point. Sabrina Singh, thank you very, very much.
Did you see Nvidia stock tanking? Is the stock market back on its shit? Because it had a good day yesterday. Okay. Alphabet is rising, but Nvidia is tanking? I guess they're not buying Nvidia chips on some deal. That must be what it is. Oil is at $57 a barrel. Oh my God. How the fuck is gas expensive? This is how it was back in like 2004 prices. What the fuck? How is gas $3 a gallon? That's fucking crazy, dude. Why would they reduce the price? Well, that's exactly the point. The algorithm that detected a 610 billion fraud, how machine intelligence exposed AI's industry circular financing scheme. I don't think it was AI that discovered this. I think it was reporters that discovered it, but okay. It feels like the US is sleepwalking into a depression. I mean, yeah. I mean, oil already being low. Did you guys see this? Sellers are taking their homes off the market at the fastest pace in nearly a decade because there's no buyers. Weak buyer demand, weakening home prices, and overall uncertainty in the economy are combining to make home sellers change their minds and step out of the market. Close to 85,000 U.S. sellers took their homes off the market in September, up 28% from September 2024, the highest level for that month in 8 years. Sellers are delisting because so many listings are going stale, sitting on the market longer and longer. Redfin reported 70% of listings since September were on the market for 60 days or longer. Homeowners are seeing prices weaken significantly and would rather wait than accept a low offer. Prices in September were 1.3% higher year over year, down from a 1.4 rise in August. The frequency of delistings is keeping inventory tighter than it looks on paper. When tens of thousands of homeowners pull their homes off the market rather than accept a low offer, it effectively reduces the supply of homes that are actually available for buyers. That keeps sale prices elevated. Some sellers are lowering prices even multiple times. The typical price cut is roughly $10K, but multiple reductions are becoming more common as homes take longer to sell. The typical listing saw 25,000 in cumulative price cuts in October, matching the largest discount Zillow has ever recorded. The housing market is now heading to its slowest season. 1 in 5 homes that are delisted or relisted. That may not happen for several months, as sellers will likely wait for the much busier spring season to try again. Home prices are still 50% higher than they were just 5 years ago, but some sellers who bought in the last few years are facing potential losses. Roughly 50% of homes that are delisted in September were at risk of selling at a loss, the highest share in 5 years, according to Redfin. Okay, so housing prices ballooned 50% in the last 5 years, and basically this is what it looks like before an asset crash. Now, I'm not saying it will happen, but this is a frequent condition of people bought houses at elevated prices. They can't afford to sell at a loss. And because interest rates are so much higher than they were 5 years ago, borrow money now, the interest payments are double. So the best thing to do is just hunker down and stay in your home. It's golden handcuffs. The problem is in a recession where people lose their jobs and their income, therefore their ability to pay their mortgage, then a bunch of people are forced to sell their homes to avoid bankruptcy. And if more and more people are rushing to sell their homes, then they start going into foreclosure. As long as people are able to pay their mortgage payments, then this can continue on for a while. But if there's any kind of economic downturn, there's going to be a lot of people forced out of the market because they've lost their jobs and therefore their ability to pay. And the only way to recover themselves financially is to sell the house. Now, maybe the United States will print a bunch of money and inflate housing prices nationwide in order to protect homeowners. Wouldn't they be underwater on the mortgage, though? Yes, that's what will cause the crash, because eventually people will not be able to, they won't be able to reduce their price below what they owe, and therefore they will not find a buyer, and then it'll go into foreclosure, and then the economy will spiral more. That's what happened to the 2007, 2008 financial crisis, is people bought a bunch of houses, and as long as housing prices went up, if you lose your job in a market where housing prices are increasing and you can't pay your mortgage anymore, you could still sell your house. And if you have positive equity, you could pay off the mortgage, and then you have money in your pocket, and you might be able to go into a rental. You might be able to, bridge yourself into another job. But if housing prices are declining and you lose your job, there's no equity in your house, that's when you get into financial hardship. That's why 9 million, 10 million people lost their homes in 2007, 2008. That's also why housing prices continued to crater in America until 2012. Housing prices really didn't start to recover until 2012. You can look at that median household income. This is probably this is median household versus median household. Income, median house price. Jeez. Some search I typed that was stupid in the past. Okay, if you look at this, you see how the housing bubble, they were about just under 7 median home price to median household income ratio. See how it's higher than that now? At the peak of the housing bubble, housing is more expensive now than it was at the peak of the housing bubble. Well, then it crashed until 2012. It wasn't until 2012 that housing prices started to rise again. And they remained relatively cheap until the COVID pandemic, relative to the housing bubble. Still elevated compared to the Great Compression. Only at the very bottom of the housing market were housing prices affordable in the US, at the bottom of the crash. So that was February of 2012. The supply of homes for sale is 50% higher now than it was a year ago, but that is likely to shrink in the coming weeks, both because of the season, because of weakening consumer sentiment among buyers and sellers alike. Pending sales in October, which are based on signed contracts, were up 1.9% month to month and basically flat from a year ago. Monthly bump may have been due to a small drop in mortgage rates, which then turned higher again in November. Consumer confidence hits lowest point in April as job worries grow. Consumers soured on the current economy and their prospects for the future, with worries growing over the ability to find a job. The board's consumer confidence index for November slumped to 88.7, a drop of 6.8 points from the prior month for its lowest reading in 7 months. These are, ladies and gentlemen, not good signs, but don't worry, the stock market is up today. I wouldn't be concerned. The stock market is up. All right, chat. Well, the crossover you've all been waiting for. Zohran Mamdani on the Adam Friedland show. Adam has really good representation. That's all I could say. So let's kick back, relax, and watch the newest center-left influencer, Adam Friedland, take on aspiring sellout Zohran Mamdani.
What is it like? You go to the White House, right? You take a selfie on a plane. No caption. That is like Drake vibes a little bit.
Hit the emoji though.
You hit the emoji.
Come on. You know where I was going.
On the plane? What do you think? Like, what's the game plan there?
Honestly, I knocked out on the plane.
I mean, you looked a little bit like. That was the joke on the internet. You look a little bit like you took you hit nothing.
You can say it.
You look a little bit like you hit the edible before the flight.
Why would you say that?
It was 30 minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Adam Friedland Show. I'm Adam Friedland. Because this is such a special episode, we've decided to release this episode to the public 2 days early. Additionally, we've got to give the boys some time off for Thanksgiving. I'm such a good guy, wow. Also, we don't want to leave our members and patrons hanging. So starting next week, we will be commencing a weekly members-only stream, State of the TAFs. Is that what the name is? Okay, it's called State of the TAFs. Where we will be taking, but it's the Adam Friedland Show, so State of the TAFs. State of TAFs.
State of the
State of the TAFs.
State of the
State of the Adam Friedland Show. Okay, well, let's stick with State of the TAFs. Okay, so starting next week, we will be commencing with a weekly members-only stream. It's called State of the TAFs, where we'll be taking questions from members and patrons. So please, if you don't already, support the Adam Friedland Show on YouTube or Patreon. There's links in the description. You guys are the ones that keep the show going. We are proudly member-supported, kind of like socialism vibes. My guest this week is Mayor-elect of New York City and former striker of the Bronx Science Wolverines, Zohran Mamdani. On Friday, my staff huddled around the office computer and we all watched the Mayor-elect's historic press conference with President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. My 22-year-old employee, Zach, tapped me on the shoulder. His voice was quivering. A tear was rolling down his cheek. I remember it clearly. He said, "Dad, I mean Adam, the man on the screen, standing next to the President of the United States, will be here in 36 hours' time. But how do we get him off the computer and into the real world?" I smiled and looked at him and said, "If you can figure out how to do that, Zach, I'll give you $1 million fucking dollars." So please enjoy my conversation with Zohran Mamdani, everyone. I'd like to take a break from speaking with the mayor to tell you about Roe. It's for your erections. Thank you to Roe for sponsoring this episode. I'm not a real Roe Sparks user, but I'm excited to tell you what it's all about. Listen. People who are gonna shill boater pills that they can fucking personally attest to. How dare you try to sell me boater pills you didn't take? At least take one. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor-elect New York City.
Stavi would never.
Everyone. Elect. Congratulations.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
How you doing?
Good.
It's funny, like when I met you, we just talked about sports. I wasted your time like 4 days before an election.
I
just
thought it was
talking about
great.
we talked about all of our collective pain.
Yeah.
The game's on right now. The North London Derby's on right now.
3-0, baby.
You said you've been too busy. You've been too busy running for mayor to watch the games this year.
It
Now
has
you're
been
making
tough
me
in that
too
way.
busy to watch.
But like, we'll get an update if it's 4.
This is unprofessional.
I thought
I gotta. Someone text me. Oh shit. You need to see this. Oh no.
Hi Zohran, how you doing, Ian? Right here.
What?
I just want to say a massive congratulations on what you've achieved. The real work now starts now, but God willing, you can achieve everything that you have
I love
set
you.
out to achieve.
Are you
We're
crying?
gonna need some of that
How did you do this?
winning energy that you've got, my friend, and get behind the boys. It's a long way to go.
I'm gonna cry.
You just have to stay calm, back Mikel and all the boys. Up the Gunners, baby. Take it easy and God bless, my friend.
He's an Arsenal fan?
I just got a text.
Do this.
My boy.
He dropped the phone. Oh, that's so awesome. They left that in.
Hi Zohran, how you doing?
I'm just gonna watch it again.
Yeah, just watch it.
I just want to say a massive.
I can't believe Zohran has a new iPhone, guys. I can't believe it.
Congratulations.
I love this man.
You've achieved.
He's the best guy of all time.
Have you seen the video where he is
He meets
reunited
his
with his teacher?
Mr. Pigeon. I thought you was dead.
I thought you were dead.
We have. Okay, here's the problem, guys. I don't want to expose you, but it's crazy. I mean, Ian, right. Okay.
What a man.
How did I do that? I really bothered.
And you actually, and I thought there was something wrong.
I know. Yeah. Mr. President.
I didn't know where you were going.
No, it's not a, no.
How did you do that?
I knew that it was going to be.
I love him.
I love him so much. He's the best guy of all time. You know his background story? He was like working in a factory, and then he tried again. He's like, I'm going to try one more time. And then he went to Crystal Palace. He got
These are like the stories I would read when I was 17 and on the B team of a travel team in New York City.
What did you play? What position did you play?
Arsenal have a vast history of having superstar black players earlier than most. It has led to them having arguably the most diverse fan base, especially with POC. Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
I played up top.
Up top.
Yeah.
You were a 9?
I think I was 23.
Okay, but you were a striker.
Yes. It had no relation to the number on the back of my jersey.
We have like a lot of our brain is occupied by the most useless information related to this soccer.
Every day I wake up, I think about Sebastian Squillaci.
Oh my God.
Pascal Sigan.
I think about
Marwan Shamak.
Yeah, when I caught you, like I'd be a little bit of a politician because I said that Ospina was giving me nightmares, and you're like Jackson Heights is in the balance.
Yeah, it's like, can you lay off my Colombian goalkeeper for a moment?
No one cares. No one cares. We're embarrassing ourselves. Okay. You grew up in the Upper West Side.
Yep.
Yeah, New York City kid.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Well, we both lived a little bit as kids in Cape Town. Yeah.
You lived in Cape Town?
Yeah. Where did you live? Observatory?
I lived in Oranjezegt.
That's where my mom
From
grew up.
96 to 99.
That's my mother grew up in Oranjezegt. Yeah. Both my parents are from Cape Town. And then I was born in LA. My dad was on a list of some sort.
You got to give me more than that.
My dad and mom both went to university in London.
Okay.
We're Jews from Cape Town.
Okay.
And then,
Shout outs.
they met in South Africa. They met at home in Cape Town. They kept getting set up on blind dates. And she was like, this fucking guy again. And then somehow he wore it down. And then they got married.
Bro, that is such a fucking legendary story from your parents. Where she's like, well, everybody kept saying he was my looks match, so I guess I'm stuck with this fucking guy. This guy again. All right, whatever. That makes perfect sense for that's the source of Adam Friedland. True love is amazing, isn't it, chat?
And he got a letter that he was being sent to Angola to the Civil War, and so they left. They just
when did they
packed
leave?
up and
What
left.
year?
82.
Wow.
So I was born in LA.
Okay. Have you been to
my
Cape-
dad was on an enemies list because of the apartheid regime.
Yeah.
And so I lived there when I was a kid. And then I was there back, my granny's from Sea Point. None of the grannies left. And actually, an interesting
Are they still there?
Granny's still there, 94. She just got a hip. You want to send her a video?
Let's do it.
Hi, Granny.
Yeah. Congrats on the hip.
Congrats on the hit, Esther. Congrats on the hip.
Do we not like Adam Friedland? Why? Did I give that impression that I don't like Adam Friedland? Why would you get that impression? Why would you get that impression?
Promise, I'm trying my best in life, and no, she's very proud of me. I told her I have the mayor coming on, and no. So yeah, my Diva actually was. He was like, when I was a kid, I used to write my essays like, who's your hero on my Diva, because like it connected me to my parents, because like it was like, you know,
That's
South
amazing.
African. Yeah. So, but he went to our synagogue after he got out of jail and he was elected. And he was like, you got to tell your kids to come back because we need everyone to build a country. And like my parents' whole generation of Jews.
So why are you not following Madiba right now?
Because I had to talk to you. You know, and I got this studio. And it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
You know, last time I went back was in 2010.
2010
for the World Cup.
Steve fucking did the Jabalala. Was it obnoxious?
Vuvuzela.
Yeah. Could you not hear anything?
You hate it if you're not the one doing it. And I was one of the people doing it.
You got one?
Yeah, I brought them back.
Fucking loud.
I brought them back.
I brought one back to
Maine.
college. Yeah.
I went to a D3 basketball game. My roommate was on the
With
basketball
the
team,
vuvuzela.
and I had the vuvuzela.
Yeah.
I think I was at Bates College, and I pulled it out and I blew it, and the ref stopped the game, and he was like, "You need to fucking stop."
Yeah. And you're like, come on. Didn't you see the World Cup? Didn't you see the ball that went in all different directions?
But I was at the Ghana-Uruguay game.
No.
That's where I cried in public.
No.
Yeah, Luis Suarez.
Asamoah Gyan. Dude,
VAR.
I can't. Guys, this
That was the closest.
The mayor caring about soccer is the mayor caring about Arsenal is like Wakanda for me. It's like I feel like it's like representation.
Do you remember that tweet?
You're one of us. I remember your tweet.
No, not the what is it? Ruth Conda forever.
Ruth, oh my god. Yeah, like when I met you, one thing that was like remarkable is like we were talking about soccer and hip hop.
I remember this game. Isn't that the year that the Ghana defeated the U.S. in the round of 16? It's like one of the U.S.'s best World Cup runs. This is the game they're talking about, chat. I'm gonna get like DMCA'd by FIFA because I watch clips. I don't understand why they have a guy painted, but it's 2010. That was normal back then. Zafood, that's funny.
Yes, we're into the knockout football stage. Ghana for the second World Cup running, the only Africans left standing. The States haven't reached the quarterfinals since 2002. That is their aim this evening.
Oh, that 2002 game was super bullshit too.
They've got an opportunity to be forward here now. Jan is on the right. He'll go for goal with a shot. What a start here. Kevin Prince Boateng for Ghana. With 5 minutes on the clock, it's a super start for the Black Stars. Kevin Prince Boateng was allowed to go as far as he wanted, and didn't he take advantage? His first goal for his country. What a time to score it. Ghana may go further in front here. Howard has to make the save to prevent Asamoah making it 2-0.
Second half.
Donovan's touch to Dempsey. It is Clint Dempsey. Down he goes. That will be a penalty kick. Jonathan Mensah was the one who brought him down and gets the yellow card. No question about it being a correct call from the referee.
Guys, he literally kicked his feet. That's a penalty. Like, come on.
What a moment for Landon Donovan. It's in off the upright. The United States are back in business. He is spot on. No goalkeeper on earth could have got that.
Oh, he kissed it off the goalpost. Jeez.
They do. A little shuffle there, confused them all. It's prodded out here to Altidore. He'll stroke it in here for Bradley. Good save
that
for
was such a poor finish. What a poor finish. What the fuck was this?
He'll stroke it in here.
What the fuck was this? What the fuck was this?
For Bradley. Good save from Kingston. Michael Bradley is suddenly coming into the game more and getting into intelligent shooting positions. Tired players, tired minds. We're off and running again. 90 played, 30 to go. Now that's hooked forward. Here's a chase for Gian. He's 1-on-2. It is Gian. He's in the area. He scores! Ghana are back in front. A goal of individual brilliance from Samoa Gian. Taking it on the chest, beating off Demerit, blasting it past Howard. Great goal from Gian for Ghana. Last opportunity here for the United States. Here comes Gomez with the header. It's dropped down for Dempsey. A heroic block. And Ghana are on the threshold. It's Ghana's night in Rustenburg.
Okay, chat. That was the context. That's the context, I believe.
Oh my God. Yeah, like when I met you, one thing that was like remarkable is like we were talking about soccer and hip hop.
Yeah.
And I was like, we are losers. I was like, but I was like, we're the same. Like
representation matters.
We're the same generation, right?
Yep.
It dawned on me that my entire life, this is kind of feels like the first time that someone from my generation has ascended to leadership. I guess Mayor Pete did, but he was more of a suck up to the parents. You're more one of us, I think. I don't know. He couldn't laugh at that, or he could laugh at that. No, you're mad at me? She gets mad at me. She yells at me, Olivia. Can you tell her to take it easy? Anyway, give it up for Olivia. Communicate. Why is everyone so nervous? Okay.
That's Monica.
Or Amelia, sorry.
That's Amelia.
Oh, sorry. Okay, cut that. Okay. How are you? Yeah, you're mayoring people older than you. Are you getting unked?
Okay, can you explain to me what does UNC stand for?
Uncle.
Someone told me it stood for uncool. It's uncle.
It's uncle.
All right.
You have old heads, unks, and OGs.
Why the fuck would you say uncool? That's terrible. No one would say unk. No, that's awful. No.
I want to make sure.
Yeah. You were unknown like a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, even my friends didn't know what an assembly member was.
Yeah. I still don't know, and I don't want to know, in fact. I mean, you're
Mike, do you think your show would be elevated with a nice set? I'm surprised Hassan hasn't put some money in towards his own set, like a set. I think that there's definitely something to be said for a better space.
You're perhaps one of the most famous people
but
in
authenticity
America
is the
right
most
now.
important.
I mean,
I
it's
agree
weird.
with that.
Is it weird?
Yeah.
How have you adjusted to that?
I think I try and spend as much time as possible with people I knew before I was
The day ones.
the mayor-elect.
Yeah.
And I think the nice thing about being an assembly member is I was still working in politics, but I was also walking around my neighborhood like anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to...
You went to the White House, okay?
I went to the White House. I was going to tell you I went to Duane Reade, but
Okay.
both of them are true.
Okay, let's start on the Duane Reade.
Okay, start on the Duane Reade.
Okay, yeah.
We went in there,
Yeah.
pick up something from the apartment.
Yeah.
This guy in front of us has a pack of condoms and breath mints, and he turns around and he goes, "Mr. Mayor." And he looks at my wife, he goes, "Mrs. Mayor."
Uh-huh.
And that's our experience now at Duane Reade.
Yeah, and
that's life in Astoria.
Oh, the condoms had.
I don't know.
He was like, "Mr. Mayor, I'm about to lose my virginity." Yeah.
He left it at that.
I would like you to know.
He wants some advice.
I'm about to become a man.
He just gave the titles.
What does this last year feel like? And what has the adjustment been like?
I mean, it's. To be honest with you, I haven't spent all that much time reflecting on it.
You should,
because it's so go.
You should just work a lot. Have you checked the Reddit?
You sound like the inner voice.
Is there a Zohran Mamdani Reddit?
I don't know. Is there?
Probably. Don't check it though.
No.
Yeah, just don't read the comments.
No,
You'll
I
be
always
fine.
forget to put the extra /R when I'm like typing in the URL. So I don't even.
What is it like? Like you go to the White House,
yeah.
right? You take a selfie on a plane, no caption. That is like Drake vibes a little bit.
Hit the emoji though.
You hit the emoji.
Come on. You know
what
where
are
I
you
was
thinking on
going.
the plane? What are you thinking? Like you think like what's the game plan there?
Honestly, I knocked out on the plane.
You slept.
Slept.
It's a 30-minute flight. I mean, you looked a little bit like. That was the joke on the internet. I don't know if I can make these jokes. You
Make
look a
'em.
little bit like you took the you hit nothing.
You can say it.
You look a little bit like you hit the edible before the flight.
Why would you
know
say
it's
that?
30 minutes. I'm
Why
sorry,
would you say
Mr. Mayor.
that?
I know.
Why would you say that
It's
to
like,
me?
I don't know. I apologize. You walk it like? Did he gave you a tour of the White House?
He gave me a tour of.
What was the weirdest thing he showed you?
The Oval Office and the Cabinet Room.
He had to have shown you something. One thing weird.
I mean, he showed me the portraits of all the presidents in the Cabinet Room.
Yeah, he saved the FDR for you.
The FDR was beautiful.
It was really nice.
And we talked about FDR for a little bit. Honestly, you don't have the LaGuardia record if you don't have FDR.
Yeah.
But we talked about that. I walked in. First you get there and it's just you alone, and there are two people like guiding you through to get to the Oval Office. And they're like, they want you to see this room and that room. And then I sit down waiting for the time of the meeting. And in front of me are like all these different coffee table books, and one of them is UFC at the White House.
Oh yeah, he's bringing it there, right?
I had no idea, but I was
the rows
flipping through that.
And so you saw like guys fighting each other?
No, it was just
what was it? UFC. It was
visualization.
Of
like what the
the octagon is.
Yeah, it's gonna look like.
Yeah. Are you gonna go?
No.
Are you? Can I ask you a question? Like, how did you not laugh?
When the 135?
How did you keep the face during the press conference? Because we were all dying, and I'm like, my boy Zohran was like just straight face. He said, "Just tell him yes." Yeah. How did you keep that face?
Honestly, I was just thinking about New York City.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the whole time I was trying to think about the difference between if you have a White House that is working towards an affordability agenda or one that's making it harder to live in the city.
Yeah.
That's kind of what kept.
Do you feel like as if the president sees your popularity? He loves the ratings. Ton of reporters. He sees it. He's, I think, handsome. I think he thought handsome. Did you have eyes up here, Mr. President? You were elected because you were trusted on your policies for affordability. Do you think he's maybe a little bit trying to like swagger Jack a little bit?
I actually think there are a lot of places of disagreement with the president. I think one of the things that was remarkable to me is I told him that our campaign started on October 23rd of last year, but the moment when some people started paying attention was after he won the presidency. We did the video on Fordham Road, Hillside Avenue. Yeah. We talked to Trump voters and we asked them why they voted for him, and it just went back to cost of living and it went back to cheaper groceries, and that was a lot of our campaign.
And he liked that it was 1 in 10, right? That's like he liked.
1 in 10.
He liked.
Did you see the guy who has the MAGA from Mamdani hat?
Yeah.
And then he did the.
How'd that feel?
The MAGA from Mamdani?
Oh, he saw the MAGA from Mamdani guy song!
It was wild. I remember I was going to step on, I sound like such a postulist, everything is we. I was going to step on the stage at Forest Hills where we were doing our rally.
Did you think it was a prank?
Well, I had a member of the NYPD pull me aside and they're like, I just want you to know that there is a man in your line of sight with a red MAGA hat. We checked and he's actually sincerely here for the rally.
Oh, nice. So you really had to bring it. You had to do a Trump-style rally.
I think one of the things that happens is once you get to a certain level of famous, and I think it's hard for people to understand this who are not in the public eye at all. And I'm not trying to claim like I'm super famous or anything, but I have gotten to enough people know who I am for schizo behavior to manifest. And when I say schizo, I mean schizophrenic, where people have entire delusional narratives about you in their head. And it can be very disconcerting. It can be very, very disconcerting because I think a lot of my mind and time is spent appealing to people's reason and their intellect and a certain level of engagement that requires, the higher order functions of the brain to be functional. Functions are functional. Really good turn of phrase by me. And when somebody's schizophrenic, it's like meeting a ghost. Like they're not really engaged with you or the world around them. They're on their own, they're on their own wavelength, pumping into walls. And it's very uncomfortable. And it kind of makes you it always makes me a little melancholy, not because I feel bad for myself or anything, but just a recognition of our fallibility and our mortality and that we are these biological machines, and if part of our bodily functions are not operating well, we lose our identity. That's fucking scary, man. We lose touch. So I bring all this up because I can't imagine what Zohran's going through. Can't imagine the volume and constant threats that he's now have to become accustomed to. And it's not always like the schizophrenic delusions are not always like hostile. Sometimes they're incredibly the opposite way, amorous, where it's like people imagine entire relationships in their head. So, and that, could obviously turn bad as well, because that delusion being broken is not comfortable. It's why, like, I legitimately do think that it's not just a mental health problem. I think these kind of manifestations are the product of like stress and like long-term complex failures in our social safety net. And it's really, really frustrating.
For him, you had to do YMCA. This guy's accustomed to some wild rallies. This guy's accustomed to a stadium full of.
Yeah, it was just me and El Bizgar Church.
Yeah,
and somebody from MTV Lebanon.
Did you expect him to like you as much as he did?
I was trying to prepare for a lot of different situations.
I know. It's like when you're on that plane taking that selfie. I mean, that could have gone in any direction. I mean, like, did that feel best case scenario, or like were you like?
I don't think it was the best case scenario. I think it was a very good scenario. I think best case scenario would be Trump try to go after him and him just owning Trump and Trump getting mad and having an outburst and looking like a dope. Like, that's probably best case scenario for our political goals. But I certainly think this was a very good scenario where Trump basically diffused all his own right-wing talking points and kind of basted his presence and avoided confrontation. Like, I think that was a very good outcome because it was a normalizing meeting for socialism and for Mamdani.
I mean, honestly felt like the most productive meeting we could have had.
Yeah.
I mean, a meeting where we talked about ULERP, we talked about, groceries, Con Ed, rent, childcare. That feels like the best meeting you could have.
Yeah. Were Eric or Donald Jr. there?
No.
Did you worry that like to see that was maybe difficult for them?
No, I wasn't thinking about that.
Maybe it's like the hang has just been so bad. This cool guy came, and he's like, now I have to go back to these guys. Did he say, can you sleep over?
Sanity was made into a commodity, and so is insanity. I mean, oh man. I am a strong advocate in favor of therapy. But at the same time, the way therapy is sold and marketed in the United States is not like, I want you to go to therapy, but it's like a theoretical socialist therapy that no longer exists because everything is about hooking you into some sort of chronic payment plan. It's like, how many subscription services could I load up on you?
To New York and see you?
You didn't ask me that.
Oh man. I mean, it was one of the most surreal things we've ever seen as Americans.
Robin Van Persie against Charlton, baby.
What's the score?
What?
Fuck! Who scored? Oh,
what?
Did he do the pigeon from halfway line?
He scored from the halfway line?
Yeah, he chipped Ryan.
Why? It was off his line?
It wasn't Ryan's fault. It was a great play from him.
Why would you say that?
Because they're not a threat.
They're not a threat.
That's famous last words. What's this time?
Okay.
73rd.
What time is it right now?
74th minute.
What time is it?
102.
Okay.
Did you watch the 4-4 Arsenal Newcastle?
Yeah, we talked about it. It was the worst day of my life. This is an interesting moment for us because we have like an opportunity to have like a snapshot of you after an historic election and prior to the assumption of one of the most powerful positions in America.
Co-host of the show.
Co-host of the Adam Friedland show.
Yeah.
What made you run for mayor? Like, what made you decide to run for mayor?
I think one of the things was that I was very frustrated with the fact that Eric Adams, who was at that point running for re-election, was making it more expensive to live in New York City.
This is Mike's preferred therapy. Hold on here.
If I lived and worked in a big city, which, now that I think of it, is kind of a problem, since I always feel uncomfortable around crowds. I mean it. I have this fear of enclosed spaces. Everything makes me feel trapped all the time. I always tell myself there's got to be something better out there, but maybe I think too much. I think everything must go back to the fact that I had a very anxious childhood. My mother never had time for me.
I have to say that Woody Allen, I can't do it. He's such an Epstein guy. I can't. All Woody Allen shit is just so tainted for me. I can't do it. Also, can we say fuck to ruminating? As a ruminator, can we stop ruminating so much? Being a ruminator is a bummer.
Yeah.
In clear ways that he had direct control over, and then pretending like he was just a bystander. He would write a letter in support of Con Ed when they wanted to increase gas and electric by more than $60 a month. He would raise the rent more than 12%. He would increase the water bill. He would.
But like the conditions for you, I mean,
for me,
you're like, this is the time I'm gonna run for mayor.
I think the thinking was that I wanted to make a case specific about cost of living.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people who looked at the swing of our politics and thought that the only way to beat someone heading towards the right is to head towards the right yourself.
And you felt like you were gonna win?
I felt like I had a 3% chance of winning.
Yeah.
And that's probably giving me an extra 2
crazy.
points.
Was there someone that you spoke to who said don't run?
Tons.
Did your girl say that?
My wife.
Your wife.
Oh, you gotta.
I mean, she's still your girl. She's always gonna be your girl. Your wife. She said run.
She was down for it.
So
that was the final decision that we had.
You're allowed. Yeah. Is she mad at you for working so much?
No,
she gets
she's
on
lovely.
you. She is a little bit.
She what?
Is she a little bit? She gets but it's annoying for her a little bit.
My,
she lets you
my
work
heart.
so much. Mine.
This is all permission given.
Mine doesn't.
No, but I think, to be honest with you, it's to meet someone in one stage of your life and then to have your life and their life transform.
Yeah.
What it also just like the level of love and support it takes from someone. Yeah. I would not be able to do this without her.
She gets mad at you.
I would say that I've been thinking a lot about relationships and models of how we should be in the future, because so many, I would say, like, relationship formation in America is broken. And I mean that in like every way. Like, people are just not forming enough relationships anymore. And it is, and I think men in particular are uniquely damaged in this area. So to see Zohran modeling this type of relationship as a young man is really helpful. And I think about myself. I think about how I was raised as a young man and how society still to this day pressures me to be emotionally unavailable, to be stoic, to be emotionally amputated, invulnerable, and how bad I am at some of the more important aspects of social maintenance, How I was basically burned to be like, you need to learn how to be an island. You need to learn how to not rely on anybody. You need to learn how to be, protect yourself. And so I'm trying to relearn how to be emotionally available, how to be emotionally intelligent, how to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Attentive, Like, I take that really seriously. I think women are taught and socialized in our society to be attentive to other people, whereas men are taught to be attentive to their own goals and aspirations. So we all have to get better at that.
To do this without her.
She gets mad at you for working too much.
That's not what I said.
I feel like I looked into your eyes. I see a fellow brother. What was the moment you knew you'd win?
For the primary?
No, the primary and the general, I suppose.
I got two questions. There isn't like a single moment. The funny thing to me is that in both of the elections, from 6 to 9 p.m., I thought I was going to lose of election day.
Because there was like bad exit polling?
In the general, there was a rumor at around 6 o'clock that there were two major news networks that had bad exit polls and that showed Cuomo with an advantage.
He started that rumor?
Who knows, man? Definitely worked. Ruined my night. Ruined my night. Primary, I remember Kevin Elkins.
How did you fall for that?
I'm such a mark over this stuff. Kevin Elkins, who was working on Cuomo's campaign, put out a tweet like, I guess the most important thing is that everybody had fun. This means they know they're going to win. And he's saying that to us.
He's in a room full of 4 guys as the election night party. You're in a stadium. You're in a stadium in front of a Dory fan. I think you should have looked around.
Yeah, but never. I mean, this is like being an Arsenal fan.
It's the hope that kills you.
It's never done until
that meant so much to me. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? You cannot count it.
It's a reminder that you're gonna die one day. It's like you think that once anytime you think something good's gonna happen, it just goes away.
You have to hold.
I think
your
it's
breath.
made us better people, though.
Yeah, I mean, we've had to deal with disappointment for decades.
I think if we were like,
I think that the reason why I think the thing that is the most kind of annoying to me in my day-to-day life, it's the rant I had yesterday, is there's a lot of people that pathologize their politics. They basically take their internally derived depressive disorder and they make it their politics. And that manifests in, let me find out reasons why everything good is actually bad, and then post a breathless tweet about it. Like, that is legitimately so much of what I see online. In fact, I get it in my replies like all the time. And this is where the pathologizing comes in. A lot of people are pessimistic because they got hurt and they got disappointed once, and someone they thought that was going to be good turned out to not be good, and it hurt them so bad, and they just could never get over it. Okay, so that's so many people. I was just hurt and I could just never trust again. Okay, that's so many people. And so in order to justify that brokenness, they then spend all of their time trying to make the betrayal happen. They spend all their time doing self-fulfilling prophecies. And in order to make their self-fulfilling prophecy true, they have to start escalating what their demands are, right? Zohran Mamdani got elected making the promises saying, I am a democratic socialist. I oppose Israel's genocide in Gaza, free Palestine. I will get free and fast buses. I will get free childcare, and I will freeze the rent. That's what he ran on. Okay. Now suddenly everybody is coming out of the woodwork with their own set of demands. And if you don't agree with this set of demands, which is not what he was running on, you're not a real socialist. A real socialist would listen to this demand that I made up. I'm not part of the campaign. I'm not in New York City. But I have this set of demands, and Zohran is not fulfilling these demands that I made up. He's a fucking sellout. And it's like, the man ran on a platform, is pursuing that platform. He calls himself a socialist while recognizing not everything that a socialist might like is politically accomplishable in this moment. Here's what I ran on. Let me deliver what I ran on. And people are just against this idea. They are against this idea. They're actually against campaigning or running in general. And so all they're going to do is spend all of their time trying to damage your trust in Zohran, try to find every single reason to be skeptical, every single reason to believe that some bad outcome might happen, under the false idea that you're helping. You're not doing anything. You're not even critiquing Zohran, really. You're just taking up space in the public square, making noise. It's a random noise. And I feel like ultimately, this crisis is in people that are depressed trying to justify that depression. People that are inactive and sedentary trying to defend their inactive and sedentary nature. People that are unorganized explaining why organizing is a waste of time to justify being unorganized and uninvolved. And it is by far and away the most annoying internet trend in the online leftism. I don't give a shit. You're an unorganized leftist. Shut up.
Real Madrid fans would be like cheating on our taxes. We'd be like, I'm gonna live forever. We have affairs, multiple families.
Create a retractable roof.
I think for us, we're like, it's gonna all go away. So I have to like take advantage of the time I have. It means nothing to these people. Okay.
Wait, what's the?
4-1 as a hat trick.
Let's fucking go. Sorry for cursing. 4-1.
Sorry to me.
Wow. Hey guys, we want to thank Lucy for sponsoring
fucking sponsorship
on your laptop or phone. And right now, just for our listeners, Monarch is offering 50%.
My new favorite one is pro-Israel groups are pressuring Zohran to do this bad thing and then getting mad at Zohran for hypothetically caving, getting mad because of a dream. This is my new favorite one. Okay. So there was a synagogue in New York that had a land sale of like settler territory, right? Really bad evil Zionist shit. And a protest happened outside of the synagogue. And some of the protesters chanted, death, death to the IDF. And then people go to Zohran and say, do you support chanting death, death to the IDF? And he said, no, I would discourage that kind of talk. I think it's divisive, right? And people are like, oh my God, he's a sellout. He's now a Zioran. He doesn't like death, death chants. Are you fucking stupid? He's a politician. And then he condemned the synagogue for doing illegal land sales. You think the politicians are going to want to be chanting death, death to the IDF? Are you fucking stupid? What are you talking about? Shut the fuck up. It's like one of those incredibly silly things. I think a lot of people, they like to demonstrate their LARPing by speaking big instead of acting big. I'm sorry, if you chant death, death to the IDF, okay, you chanted that. I understand the sentiment. But do you think you're like destroying the IDF by chanting that? You're saying some words. You didn't do shit. You know, like I get it, but like, come on. Stop posturing like you're so much better than other people. You did a chant. Like, slow your fucking roll. Stop the fucking posturing. Stop the posturing as the one true leftist. And brand building. This outlook on Zohran's mayoralty is healthy. Is Zohran betraying the left? Legitimately, guys, if you're posting shit like this, you need to get intensive treatment. Like, starting now.
I have been struggling to articulate how I feel we should relate to him. I can't imagine that the left disagrees with his affordability agenda, though I know a lot of us disagree with how he's going about it. As someone on the left, I think we need to see Zohran not as a tool, because I don't really think he can be used, but strategically as someone whose actions can sometimes be leveraged toward our own goals, even if his motivations are not the same as ours. Criticisms of him are definitely needed, but shallow anti-electoral critiques deny the openings that are created when we understand that the infrastructure of capitalism is in its laws, its policies, its tax codes, and inside the state. We are quick and correct to criticize radlibs and baby leftists for their hero worship of Zohran. But I think that ardent leftists fall into the same traps when we vilify him for his capitulation. If Zohran walks back with his rhetoric and capitulates in the way that we've seen him do thus far, but he still wins his affordability agenda, that is still a victory for the left. His capitulation shouldn't be moralized as a failure of Zohran the man, but understood as a structural limitation for operating in the political landscape that we have. As mayor, he should definitely be subjected to immense pressure from the left. He should know that we are not a tool to be used for expediency and then discarded. He needs... Okay,
a couple of things here. I agree with what he's saying. I just have some disagreements with the rhetoric, right? Because I don't think Zohran is capitulating, okay? He's operating within the reality of the political environment of New York City. And he's on the frontier. I think a lot of people, they are in their coffee clatches and their book clubs. And the political frontier of a bull session is a lot more wide into the horizon than actually holding state power and directly checking the power of capital seriously. And I think Zohran, if anything, has shown me that he's a serious political operator who means to be a leader of the left going into the future. And I see Zohran as somebody who, and this is something that I just saw today that I need to show you guys. And I'm going to tell you, this is Zohran's doing among many other electoral leftists. Can I see my post, please? Hello? Okay. Jesus. Sorry, chat. My thing was broken. Do you agree with the principles of socialism? Yes, 42, no, 39. Now, does that mean these people have read Capital? The reality is that socialism is being demystified. Socialism as a dirty word is being disabled. That helps us. It has always helped us. And there is a reality that needs to be accepted. Is that these electoral programs are what make people aware of socialism. And the reason why is you can literally see total membership of leftist organizations 2000 to 2025. Bernie Sanders runs for president, thus destroying the American left. You see how the left was largely irrelevant, largely flat, and then Bernie Sanders launches his campaign, and it is a rocket ship for socialist organizing. But Bernie Sanders is defeated. There's a slow decline in socialism. You see this? Socialism sort of like ate shit under Biden administration, which is something that I was worried about. You see where it really started to ramp up in the 2020 campaign. A lot more people went with DSA instead of just generic leftist groups like Indivisible. Mamdani is an iteration on Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was uninvolved with DSA. Zohran Mamdani is a member. We are actually building. He is a cadre member of the DSA. Now, is he more to the right wing of me? Yes. But you can literally see that these electoral programs create space for the left to continue to grow. And if you call yourself a socialist, that's great. But to make socialism acceptable to the masses, to break free of all of the false consciousness and propaganda of a century of Red Scare propaganda and lies, is an incredibly important achievement. And it's necessary if we're going to advance the horizon. This is not even really a debatable point if you care about empirical reality at all.
He slipped through the cracks. Use code TAFS at monarch.com.
Like, this is the typical Zohran sellout post.
You're telling me that two ambitious friends who both ran on populist policy and worked by popular vote after promising their voters that they would lower the price of living, sat in a room and enjoyed each other. Gerald.
Okay, no one said Zohran enjoyed his company. Trump had a crush on Zohran, and Zohran kept all of it. He didn't say one nice thing. He said, I will work with Trump if it helps New Yorkers. And Donald Trump glazed him because he had juice.
No, people are really surprised by this. Okay, I'm going to articulate. First, Trump is not tarnishing Mamdani's reputation. He is co-opting his ideology. Second, Mamdani is not a revolutionary.
Donald Trump hasn't co-opted shit. Donald Trump didn't co-opt shit. He didn't co-opt shit. He didn't say socialism is good. If anything, it was all capitulations from Trump to Mamdani, like rhetorical capitulations. Like, and Mamdani didn't give him anything. What are you talking about? This is, again, loser mentality.
He's a preservationist. His plan is not to fix the system so that it's no longer exploitative. His job is to raise the fever pitch of human suffering off boiling point just enough so that the system will continue as is and our institutions will not be burned to the ground.
You guys got to stop watching so much TV. You guys got to stop watching too much fucking TV. Capitalism is not the Death Star where one really spirited pilot can fly down the trench and fire one missile and then it all blows up. Stop watching so much fucking TV. I think one of the things that is like kind of been a long-term frustration of mine is how few people actually are aware of even what the government's scope and scale is. Do you understand the number of people that are focused on containing the left professionally right now? How many hundreds of thousands of people are 100% focused on their full-time job to contain the left both here and abroad? Do you understand the media corporations? Do you understand the think tanks, the lobbyists, the law enforcement agencies, the intelligence services, the militaries? Do you get the scale of what you're even talking about fighting? And most people are apathetic. They're not even aware that a fight is being had. You are in pretend mode. You're in fantasy mode. You are in, I watch a lot of short-term media. Revolution is just when everybody gets real mad one day. Socialism is the project of generations, just like abolition is. Since the very first slave was clapped in irons, people have been saying slavery is wrong. Even if it was only the silent musings of the slave themselves in their own fucking head, day one, slaves have been saying slavery is wrong. Get it? Like, you are, I'm sorry, this is nonsensical. This is nonsensical. If oppression and life sucking made people leftists, then Alabama and Mississippi and Arkansas would be a hotbed of socialist organizing, and they're fucking not. Stop it. Things getting worse doesn't mean socialism is going to grow. In fact, if you actually know anything, the reason why the communist parties grew in China and Russia, where there were successful communist revolutions, is because the status quo oppressive state collapsed, and it was in a moment of reform and upset that the revolutions were able to kick off, because the institutions of oppression against the left were disrupted by a collapse in support for the regime. It was because these social democratic parties existed. Yes, the Social Democratic Party of Russia is what Lenin was a part of. Like, this is just nonsense. This is video game mentality. You know what's going to make people able to organize more? If they have childcare, if they don't have to work 60, 70 hours a week in order to make ends meet. When I have a union contract that gives me the right to speak and I can't just be fired at the whim of my boss. The more resources I have, the more freedom I have, the more security I have, the healthier I am, the more mentally sound I am. The more wholesome my food, the better a soldier I am, the better a revolutionary I am. I am not a good revolution when I'm starved and homeless and drug-addled and mentally ill. This is nonsense. It's fucking wrong.
His job is to prevent the guillotines from actually being rolled out, and you think he's your savior.
He just dismantled the anti-leftist protest organization. He has pledged to dismantle the organization in the NYPD that is focused on containing protest movements. He made that solemn pledge. Now, is he going to break it? I don't know. He's just reiterated it. I just covered it. The NYPD Strategic Response Group, who's been attacking Palestinian encampments, been attacking Black Lives Matter protesters, been attacking economic protesters. He says they're getting rid of it. A major demand. He just installed the author of The End of Policing into his public safety group. An abolitionist stalwart has just been incorporated. Now, you could say, well, Mike, by abolishing the SRG, protest movements will not be oppressed as viciously by the NYPD, which is bad. We would have, I'm Luthien. This is Luthien here. She's sending you all to get shot by the stormtroopers so that you can have the force will inspire you all to revolution or whatever the fuck. Legitimately I cannot understand this level of this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing.
Let me hold your hand when I say this. You have been robbed of your critical thinking skills, and you have been placated by the drug of hope once again weaponized against you. I'm not trying to be. I am simply an ex-marketer and a communicator.
Well, I don't know about you, chat, but when I'm organizing logistics for the rebellion, I want my comms major to be leading the way. Let's just hope the freight schedules are not late.
Pattern recognition skills that I would describe as my greatest worldly burden, second only to my empathy. The solution to our struggling will not be filed through paperwork, and if there's one thing we can men to do, it is act in their own interest while proclaiming their dedication. Populist.
That was completely vacuous. There is not one point that made any sense. Sorry, vacuous. I think young mothers having free childcare is going to make them better revolutionaries. I think union teachers taking care of children is going to help women become more a part of our leadership groups. Now, I know the burden of motherhood should be borne by the individual because they made that choice, whatever rad lib bullshit you think. But I believe in the collective responsibility for all the children that we all share. And I think that that project is incredibly important. And I want to ask you guys a question, chat. What do you think is going to make regular working class people who are not radicalized yet more likely to think socialism is a good idea? Removing the burden of $20,000 a year of childcare expenses because a proud democratic socialist provided a socialized program to them? Or somebody saying it would be better if things got worse because then an angry mob will roll out the guillotines? Actual fucking insane. This only makes sense if your revolution is free healthcare. If we get free healthcare without revolution, then you're counter-revolutionary. No, because I understand how soldiers are made, and revolutionaries are soldiers. The first thing that you do when you are recruited into an army is they take a look at your health. If you're skinny, they give you more food to pack on the pounds. If you're out of shape, you do calisthenics until you are aerobically fit. If you're a little bit overweight, you get on a diet so that you can reach your physical peak. Soldiers have benefits for their children so that they can go to the battlefield and fight. I believe in building a socialist army and making sure you're happy, healthy, intelligent, well-fed, mentally strong is going to make you a better revolutionary. And if I could tax billionaires and millionaires to do it, so much the better. That's less money for them to hire mercenaries with. Like, actually fucking insanely stupid post and meaningless vacuousness. This is a very cynical take. Mamdani's job is to demonstrate to a heavily propagandized populace that socialism does work and isn't scary. He's not a revolutionary. Any serious person worth listening would never call him that. What he is a foot in the door, a crack in the capitalist wall, which blocks any sort of anti-capitalist change or worker-led movement. It's up to all of us to hold him accountable, keep agitating for more, and deprogram the masses and expose capitalism as the source of societal decay. which is what he agrees with. That's legitimately what he says. You're just repeating what he actually says. While criticisms of Mamdani's policies and decisions are necessary, this type of oversimplified and reductive analysis is counterproductive and frankly anti-solidaristic. Holy shit, this guy's smart. Flapjack, you fucking king. Oh, he's a follower of mine. What a king. What a based king. What a based king. Why can't I handle it? Everyone online bitch about Zohran endorsing Jeffries. Like all the damn replies to shit are like, I thought he'd be different. I personally disagree with it. I disagree with it because I believe that we need to be having a wider revolt against the Democratic Party establishment. And they believe they should wait until 2027. That's basically the disagreement. I think we should do it now. They think it should be 2027. That's it. That's the disagreement. But the thing is, and this is a very important point, this is how you prevent yourself from becoming Jimmy Dore or Bad and Panada. The problem with people like Bad and Panada or Jimmy Dore or what's her face? The former Bernie Sanders spokesperson. I can't remember her name. Bree. Is you can't allow yourself to think that every single strategic or tactical insight or belief that you have is 100% correct. And if anybody disagrees with you, they're bad. If you think like that, you're fucking stupid. Did I F? I'm sorry, I F'd for a couple seconds. Okay, let me repeat what I was saying. I say that just because you cannot allow yourself to be Jimmy Dore, Bree, Bad and Panada, where if anybody does anything that you disagree with, tactically or strategically, or makes a compromise you don't think they should make, that means they're evil and irredeemable and bad and a betrayer and a sellout, okay? Stop thinking like that. That's baby shit. Do you have any friends? Do you have anybody you respect that you compromise with? Do you have a fucking partner? How do you go through life never ever compromising or never ever going with a direction you didn't want to go? It's like, and sometimes you're going to be right. Sometimes they should have listened to you. Sometimes you're going to be on your stream saying Mike was right. And then a bunch of people are going to say, it's so fucking obnoxious how it's always Mike was right. That's so arrogant of Mike to point out that he was right. You should listen to me who was completely wrong. He should not get credit for being right. The point of Mike was right is not to say that everybody who disagreed with me is a complete piece of shit who should die. The point of Mike was right is, hey, we got this call right in the past. Could you listen to us going forward? And a lot of people are changing their mind because of this. A lot of people are saying those centrists were wrong about shit. Those centrists were wrong for thinking that Kamala Harris is going to win by going to the right. I'm fucking sick and tired of playing patty cake with the Republicans. Let's try going in a different direction. Am I going to say, fuck you, you believe the centrists? You're not allowed to change your mind. You're my enemy because they were wrong in the past, but now they're changing their mind? You need to learn to not be antisocial personalities. This is a very important point that I think needs to be underlined. Do not be a fucking antisocial personality. Do not be a fucking gadfly in every circumstance. Sometimes people are going to do stuff you disagree with. It doesn't mean they're your enemy. Sometimes people are going to make compromises you don't think are worth it. That doesn't mean that they're a sellout. All right? You need to like rein yourself in a little bit and get fucking grounded in reality. I'm sorry for all these rants about like reality. We just got a 33-year-old Democratic Socialist, pro-Palestinian, elected to New York City on the promise of freezing the rent and giving free childcare and free buses to everybody. And people are acting like it's the worst thing to ever happen to them. Can you fucking get real?
In your browser for half off your first year. And that's 50% off your first year at monarch.com, code TAFS.
Okay, I gotta pee.
This has become a national news story, right? And it's a crappy time. You've made a lot of people feel like inspired. Municipal politics and like is obviously messy, right? Yeah. What balance in your team that you're building right now do you have between the guys that know just like the mud, you know, and then the guys that have the vision?
I think it's looking to combine that in everybody, and I think it's tough because sometimes the more fluency and experience you have in government, the less imagination you have as to what government could be because you've had to deal with its failures for decades.
You've been in the cigar rooms,
And I think we've made a few appointments so far. The first appointment to me, Dean Foulahan, was the first deputy mayor. I appointed him, and El Bisgard Church is my chief of staff. El is somebody I've known since I've been in office. So
Yes.
I hired her as my chief of staff when I was in the assembly, which
she's been with you, yeah,
from the jump, and she's incredible.
Yeah.
And Dean is somebody who'd been in government for 47 years, and he'd worked as a first deputy mayor before, he'd worked as the head of the budget before, he worked in Albany, and the thing that I love about him is that he's
Obama traumatized a lot of leftists. Obama was always a right-winger. He was never a leftist. Like, guys, what are we talking about? He was never a leftist. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you guys are making comparisons that are just exposing people of their fucking ignorance. He was never a leftist, ever.
Through all of that, and still, his orientation is how do we make a no into a how when it comes to any political problem.
Yeah.
And that's, a lot of people lose that the longer they work in government.
Do you remember the night Obama won? Do you remember like how, like what it felt like? We're like, America is different now. You feel like, to me, the first generational talent that's come out of the progressive side of politics. But what we saw was like he wasn't prepared, that popularity didn't translate to legislative success. Did you take any notes from that? Did you learn from that? I mean, I'm trying to draw a parallel here.
No, I think the next challenge now is fulfilling the agenda.
Yeah.
Right. This excitement, inspiration, this hope, it will carry us through the beginning of the work, and then you have to start to deliver on the work. And I think that is actually what makes me excited, is that I actually see a path on each of the 3 key agenda points. And every time you win one of them, validates people for believing. Because there are a lot of people who they don't know if they should give themselves permission to hope again because of how many times they've been disappointed. And you have to prove that they were right to believe. You have to give them, if we've spent an entire campaign talking about freezing the rent for rent-stabilized tenants, fast and free buses, universal childcare, the urgency of starting to deliver on that, it's what makes people understand that they were right to demand more.
But is there a balance that you have to strike? Do you have to, those people that believe in you, do you feel like there's a necessity to kind of inoculate them to understand it's not going to be overnight, right?
Yeah, and I think that you have to be honest about a timeline, and that, I'm not going to tell anyone in the first 100 days we're achieving these 3 things.
Yeah.
But they have to be able to see that you are working towards it, and that you can actually deliver it while you're the mayor. And that's, I've been a legislator, and the legislature, it's an incredible place for where you can craft bill ideas, vote on them, debate on them. So much of whether or not they succeed has to do with whether the executive wants to implement them.
Yeah.
Or you can pass it through both houses, and if you have when I first came into Albany, Cuomo was the governor, and you knew that the implementation of the law, it could be completely different than what you intended. And now I will be the executive in New York City. Yeah. And that's also what gives me so much hope, is that you have the ability to follow through on so much of this.
Uh-huh.
And we've been told again and again what politicians can't do. It's really what they won't do. And that's why I'm here on the Adam Friedland Show.
Yeah, thank you. There are plenty of ways they can fuck with you, right? Right? And it's not only City Hall, it's but it's, Albany, it's DC, and it's you going out to see the president, showing face and showing abs, maybe. I don't know what you did. I don't know what you did in that room. Yeah. Are there contingencies in place? Are you prepared for the fight? Because they're going to try to fuck with you.
Yeah, you have to be ready for it.
It's the worst job that you have.
I don't think it's the worst job.
Why are you doing this?
Because you get to represent New York City.
No, it's the worst job. You get booed everywhere you go.
I mean, I used to get booed anyway.
I saw De Blasio get booed at a Paul Simon concert.
No.
And it was like an
really?
NPR parent family. And they're like, go fuck yourself. I was like, what? It's the mayor. He has to get booed. I mean, no, really, what it is.
I mean, but that's also what I love about, to be a New Yorker, you're going to hear a lot of people's opinions. I went to the Wu-Tang concert a few months ago.
You got booed?
Well, most of the reception is great. People are cheering, waving. They want photos. And this one guy's like, yo, come take a photo with me. I'm like, yeah, what's up, dog? And as soon as we take the photo, he pulls out the selfie, and then he just flips me off in the selfie.
That's funny.
And I'm like, respect.
Funny. He's doing a bit, though. Yeah, he likes you. I do that to my friends all the time.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. It's what it is that it's a slog. I mean,
it is definitely a slog.
You have to do it your way, I assume.
I think a big part of it is you have to keep yourself through it all, and you have to balance between the demands of what the city will require from you and how you don't lose yourself in the process of it.
Yeah.
When I started in local politics, the first organization that I joined was the Muslim Democratic Club of New York, and one of the founders, her name is Alia Latif. She gave me this advice of, whatever you do, make sure you can recognize yourself in the mirror at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of how I'm thinking about this, that work as hard as I can and do so to fulfill the vision we've had, not to comport yourself for a box that's being created.
I met Lena Khan. She was on the show.
She's great.
I mean, like, this conversation. Let me bounce it back a little bit, chat, because I've been thinking about what I wanted to say, because they talked about inoculating, and which is kind of what I was trying to do overnight.
But is there a balance that you have to strike? Do you have to, like, those people that believe in you, do you feel like there's a necessity to kind of inoculate them to understand it's not going to be overnight, right?
Yeah, and I think that you have to be honest about a timeline, and that, you know, I'm not going to tell anyone in the first 100 days we're achieving these 3 things.
Yeah.
But they have to be able to see that you are working towards it, and that you can actually deliver it while you're the mayor. And that's like I've.
Now, notice that everybody who's anti-electoralist, they're when I say electoralist, they're not using electoralist correctly in socialist terminology, which is why these people are so fucking worthless. Because if you're going to use electoralist correctly, an electoralist or a reformist is someone who believes that the only way to achieve socialism is through these, you know, bourgeois electoral processes. None of us are that. None of us believe that. So they're pretty much reviving a category so they could smear us. It's a rhetorical smear. I left New York City before you. Okay, well, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about Mushroom Apothecary in a second. Anyway, that's not what any of us believe. But we also believe that to be a socialist is to be a materialist, which means you need to evaluate the actual conditions that exist and the policies that can't be achieved and how you pull the levers and what they do, and actually be tactically aware, not just battering ram your head into a wall because of what you think things ought to be. You have to actually maneuver reality to where you want it to be. That's the purpose of socialism. The purpose of socialism is not to morally grandstand. I'll give you an analogy. Like, let's say that I believe that housing is a human right. I think that is a morally supported position. I think materially everybody needs shelter in order to survive, and and so housing as a human right sounds really good and it's moral. Does everybody believing that build one house? Houses are not built until materials are collected, processed, and then land identified, cleared, and the house constructed. And then the person has to move physically from the location they're at to their home and live inside of it and make it habitable. And to have that housing be habitable, it has to be connected to a sewage system, a water system, an electrical system, a heating and cooling system. There's all these processes that require millions of people working in collective in order to deliver the first unit of housing. The belief is not enough. There have to actually be a logistical process to coordinate human labor and materials in order to derive housing. And like, so many people think that in order to have housing, we just all need to believe that everyone should deserve housing. That is not how you deliver housing. Delivering housing is building housing in the real world and handing the keys off to real individual people. And that means somebody's get housing. That's house 1, house 2, house 3, house 4, house 5, house 6, house 7, house 6,999,999,000, 7 billion house keys. That is the project of socialism. The project of socialism is not the belief that housing is human right. The project of socialism is delivering housing to every single human being that is actually alive today. It's very easy to think about the first one. It's very hard to do the second. And a lot of people like to talk about one instead of doing two. And that's what our project is. Our project is doing that delivery. And if you're not involved in the project of delivery, you're nothing but an observer.
I've been a legislator, and the legislature, it's an incredible place for where you can craft bill ideas, vote on them, debate on them. So much of whether or not they succeed has to do with whether the executive wants to implement them.
Yeah.
Or you can pass it through both houses, and if you have when I first came into Albany, Cuomo was the governor. And you knew that the implementation of the law, it could be completely different than what you intended. And now I will be the executive in New York City. Yeah. And that's also what gives me so much hope, is that you have the ability to follow through on so much of this. Uh-huh. And we've been told again and again what politicians can't do. It's really what they won't do. And that's why I'm here on the Adam Friedland Show.
Yeah, thank you. There are plenty of ways they can fuck with you, right? Right? Like, and it's not only City Hall, it's like, but it's, Albany, it's DC, and it's like, it's you going out to see the president, like, showing face and showing abs, maybe. I don't know what you did. I don't know what you did in that room. Yeah. Are there contingencies in place? You know, are you prepared for the fight? Because they're gonna try to fuck with you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be ready for it.
You know, it's the worst job that you have.
I don't think it's the worst job.
Why are you doing this?
Because you get to represent New York
No,
City.
it's the worst job. You get booed everywhere you go.
I mean,
I used to
get booed anyway.
I saw De Blasio get booed at a Paul Simon concert.
Okay. What was the guy say? The guy say he left. He left New York. I left. Okay, account created. He says, I left New York City right before he was elected. I was so happy because this guy's gonna clap the city. Free childcare, free grocery stores is not what he said. He didn't say free grocery stores. And free busing, all paid for by white neighborhoods, just as an insane thing to run on. That's not what he said. He said paid for by raising taxes on corporation and a 2% income tax on every dollar earned over $1 million per year. So if your income is over $1 million per year, you have to pay 2 cents of every additional dollar. And he wants to raise the corporation's tax to the same level it is in New Jersey. Yeah, I'm Wall Street, LOL. No, you're not. No, you're not. Okay. Twitch following. LARPing is funny. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's see here. Houseplant Girl was your first follow. Let's see here. And then you followed Maga Man Mark, a bunch of small streamers, the 27 Club, then the Surfs, Hassan. So whose alt are you? This is like the creepy account where you just like stalk various people? Is that the plan here? His last follow was DJ Clancy. Pathetic.
And it was like an NPR parent family. They're like, oh, fuck yourself. I was like, what?
Did you see your reactions to Hassan and China are popping off on Bilibili? Wait, what? That's not true. That's not true. And honestly, I should ban you for not giving me a link. Facing right now. Hassan's in China. I'm envious. This sucks. It sucks, chat. This could have been me. No, it's and they're all oriented towards serving that socialist party, the socialist revolution. And Hassan was just standing there like not giving her any help with the translation.
And was like, where are you from? And, you know, my translator said, America. And he went, why don't you have a girl in America?
Deserved.
And so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear.
They are fucking sloshed. You know when you get drunk a little bit too early in the day? This is what they were drinking. Baijiu. It's like every single one of my like critical comments is being edited together. Thanks, guys. You're making me into a hater.
All right, here, are you ready? Cheers, sir.
I was joking. Wow. Okay, I can't translate. Translate. I don't want a lot of BBBB. It feels like a lot of making movie universe. First of all, hyperthyroidism is the first. His story. Okay, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what's happening here. The same mushroom user got one whole message out of Hassan's channel before being banned that they're probably gonna say some racist shit soon. What did he say? Reparations for who? LMAO. I think it's probably because they figured out that he was like a bot account or like an alt account. You know what I mean? Hyperthyroidism, brother, is speed? How the fuck is that? What? You gotta, because he yells too much? Oh, no. That's what Chinese people call him? Oh, okay.
It's the mayor. He has to get booed. I mean, no, really, what it is.
I mean, but like, that's also what I love about, to be a New Yorker. You're going to hear a lot of people's opinions. Like, I went to the Wu-Tang concert a few months ago.
You got booed?
Well, no. Most of the reception is like, great. People are like cheering, waving. They want photos. And this one guy's like, yo, come take a photo of me. I'm like, yeah, what's up, dog? And as soon as we take the photo, he pulls out the selfie, and then he just flips me off in the selfie.
That's funny.
And I'm like, respect.
Funny. Like, he's doing a bit, though. Yeah, he likes you. I do that to my friends all the time. Yeah. No, it's not that. It's what it is that it's a slog. I mean,
it is definitely a slog.
You have to do it your.
I'm not built to be a politician anymore, chat. I used to be able to do it, but I'm not built to be a politician anymore. I'm not built to be a politician. I'm not able to mask like I used to.
Or way, I assume.
I think a big part of it is you have to keep yourself through it all.
Oh,
and you have to balance between the demand.
What is this? Theo got me It's like, it looks like a mango cheesecake.
Of what the city
like diet. It's got protein.
Will require from you and how you don't lose yourself in the process of it. Yeah. When I was...
Oh, I'm taking it.
When I started in local politics, the first organization that I joined was the Muslim Democratic Club of New York. And one of the founders, her name is Alia Latif, she gave me this advice of whatever you do, make sure you can recognize yourself in the mirror at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of how I'm thinking about this, that work as hard as I can and do so to fulfill the vision we've had, not to comport yourself for a box that's being created.
I met Lena Khan. She was on the show.
She's great.
Real quick, just 4-minute warning.
4-minute warning. And
can we get a score update?
It's domination.
Did you ever watch the Fox Soccer Channel commercials?
No.
They used to have the EPL.
Yeah.
It'd just be like long commercials of Drogba.
Yeah. Oh my! Don't.
Descriptions. They say planet of a man.
That's the
Didier Drogba.
That's the nightmares we have.
My thoughts on Zohran's housing transition team. I would say the worst person in the transition team is pretty bad. I would say in general, there's a lot of really good people there. I'm more interested in the particularities. And full disclosure with myself, I am a Chinese style, a housing policy guy. I want to have transformative change of American cities. I'm not here. I don't believe in maintaining the status quo. I think most American cities are complete garbage and need to be basically rebuilt. So if you're a person that's like, we need to preserve the historic Spanish style home, and no, bulldoze that shit. Unless it's like literally a global historic design, if it's some tract fucking house, like bulldoze that shit. I don't give a fuck. That's I'm a Chinese style development strategy, which is 20 years from now, you'll have this fucking satellite photo, you'll drag it, it'll be a completely different city. That's what I want for America. If that doesn't sound like what you want, that's fine. We disagree.
The nightmare I have is Didier Drogba bullying
the defense. Made Senderos cry.
Michael Essien's goal.
I guess, yeah. When I met Lena Khan, she was on the show. And she's perhaps one of the most impressive people I've ever met. And when I heard she was part of the transition team, I was like, oh, he's got it. I mean, I asked her if she's ever lied, and she said, well, maybe in elementary school. And I think that was true. I think it was true. What was really effective was that she communicated antitrust laws.
I'm really bad about that. I need to learn how to mask again. You know how they're like, oh, you should learn how not to mask? No, for me, I need to mask. Because I think I grew up in a very hypercritical household. Shout out to my parents. And while I support and love them, they were always quick to provide a critique of whatever you were doing. And so that was inculcated into me as normal. Like, if somebody's doing something and I think, oh, they're doing it slightly wrong, my instinct is to be like, oh yeah, you could try, have you tried this? Or you should do this. And damn, that's such a bad thing. My parents they fucked me with that. And so I'm fighting against that. I've tried to learn how to just bite my tongue and let people live. You know what I mean? I know a 41-year-old man should probably have figured it out by now, but I'm still working on it. Everything I did was I've got a critique. So for me, when I'm like, oh, I think I could help someone, I'm like, I'm quick with advice. And I really need to learn not to do that. It's giving mansplaining. I think there should be a complete city country revitalization where all the big new buildings are Art Deco, the superior American agriculture. I would love architecture. Excuse me. Yeah. Architecture, not agriculture. I can read. I finished a meeting with one of the higher ups of the South Dakota Dems. I think it went well. I didn't give it any. I didn't give on my ideas. He said I should also think about running for city council to build experience before running for district rep. Not sure how I feel about that since Elk Point is a town of 1,100. I mean, winning always makes you more legitimate, so that's something to keep in mind. The youngest of mom who had me when she was 41. Oh, by the way, Samus, they're going to encourage people to run in districts if they don't have a candidate. They don't think they can win. It's nice to have the flag planted. The Democratic Party will encourage you to run in districts that you are fucking toasted because they want to have the flag planted. It makes the Democratic Party look stronger to have people running. They don't like conceding everything without a fight.
And like this complex stuff in a very clear and concise way.
Yeah.
And sometimes progressives feel like snobs when they're talking to people.
I remember, when I was running for state assembly, we put together our first palm card.
Yeah.
And I thought it was absolutely fire. And I remember giving it to a friend of mine, Kara McCurdy, who is a great photographer. And she read it and she was like, what do these words mean? Because so much of the time it feels like we're just speaking to ourselves.
I mean, I think that's one thing that is going to be important is like just communicating not above people's heads.
Just actually speaking with them.
With people.
And I think that's the point is to bring people in to politics, not to condescend to them as to why they're not already there. And it's also just much easier being yourself.
Are you sure? Bada Panada has 90,000 subscribers on YouTube. Are you sure?
When you're speaking to people and
you're gonna get old, your face?
Brother.
You see them always, yeah. You're going bald already?
What do you mean already? I've been going bald.
What are you doing for it?
I worry.
No, you
Did you do anything? Did you do like minoxidil?
We could go to Turkey.
That's
you go
one place
Turkey,
I'm
I'll get
not going right
I go
now.
rhinoplasty, you go hair. Oh, you can't go.
Why do you need?
Yeah.
You look great.
Adam, we got a wrap.
Okay, last question.
This is just
when I
saw
Lena, when I spoke to Lena, she said one thing that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I said, like, the most powerful companies in the world, the most powerful people in the world, like, are pissed at you. She had like hundreds of op-eds in newspapers. No one knew what the fuck the FTC was, and her response to me was very impressive. It was like, she said, like, I said, did you ever clap back or anything? She looked like confused, and she was like, no, I just have to, like, I don't know, like, win the lawsuit.
Let the work speak for itself.
If you're getting pummeled in the press, like, how are you gonna keep your horse blinders on and just focus on the agenda? You know?
I think you have to both be responsive, but I think she's right. There's two things she said about that experience that have really stayed with me. The first is that you always have to remember that the opinions that you're hearing, especially from the wealthy and the powerful, they will always be amplified in a way that working people's are not.
Yeah.
And if you remember that context, you take that seriously, and you also don't think of it as surround sound in the way that it feels.
Yeah.
And part of that means getting out of the office, getting actually into New York City, speaking to people, asking them what they're thinking about, what they're worried about. And then the other thing is that every time you win in your agenda proves that people were right to believe in that agenda in the first place.
Yeah.
And you have to both be able to respond to this and never let it distract you from the work that you're supposed to be doing. Because if she wins that lawsuit, then that's the proof. And if we deliver on this agenda, that's the proof. And I mean, Bernie talks about the thing that people are afraid of, the power of example. That's what people are fearing. Not that we won't get it done, but that we will.
Can you get him on, can you text him? Get him on the show.
I don't know, my phone's on me.
You have his number though? You should. Oh shit. I got a text. Oh shit.
I gotta give me the second time.
Shit.
It's just in right again.
Yes, Zoran.
No! Oh!
And this and the Tash, but
hold on.
Look how handsome.
I gotta go for the beginning.
Look how handsome you
together. Yes, Zoran. How are you?
We gotta go
friend?
Betsy's
I
now.
don't know if you recognize me with this badge and this hair and the Tash, but
we love.
Adam told me that you guys were gonna watch the
He's
derby
so
together.
We're now, you know,
I've
you
been
made me
watching
miss
this
the
video
derby.
before, after, or at halftime, but I'm sure that we're winning somehow. Also,
I
wanted to
DM'd
say
everyone
I
on
always had this
Instagram.
theory that being an Arsenal fan is heavily linked with being a fucking cool person. My theory is really truly standing right now. Huge congratulations.
It's like when
Very proud.
Aiden Ross gave Trump a Tesla.
It's
I just
amazing what you do. Even here in Spain, we feel the energy of what's happened. It's truly needed.
I love him so much too. He was
New York
rapping.
City needs right now, what the world needs right now, and man, just sending you lots of love and respect from here, from Spain, from a big Arsenal fan and former Arsenal player to a massive Arsenal fan as well, to you, Adam, as well. Sending you lots of love, big hug, and hope to see you guys soon. Enjoy the game. Yes, Zoran.
I'm gonna send these to you.
Oh my god.
Everybody loves a cameo, chat. Everybody loves a cameo.
Text these to you.
That is.
I DM'd
have
everyone.
watched.
I DM'd everyone. He's our era too.
He's our era. He's a style icon. He's incredible.
I can't believe I did that. I feel like Oprah right now. You got a car. I'll text this to you.
Hector, I love you.
Go ahead.
Did you see this? We're gonna talk about it. We're winning, chat. This is the good timeline. Love when you have rappers on.
What's the score?
2 African American men participating in important discourse? No. 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 So brave of you to endorse Zohran after Trump did. Okay, that's a good one. How does this show even work? Knowing the mayor of New York is friends with all the Cumtown boys is amazing. Oh, God, dude. Now, chat, I think we could safely say, does Xi know who Hassan is? Does Xi, Chinese embassy, retweets Hassan interview? Does Xi know who he is? How do I not after Black Myth Wukong, one more Chinese video game where winds meet, is taking the world by storm. I'm not a gamer myself. The Chinese aesthetic in it are absolutely stunning. Has anybody played where winds meet? Is it good or is it bad? Or is it just like slop? Okay, this is crazy. I cannot believe we now live in this timeline. Yagopnik raid, great timing. Do we have the Yagopnik raid? Did it actually happen? Or are we doing it manually? Okay, hey Yagopnik, thank you so much for the raid. Did you guys, Yagopnik, did you see this? I don't know if he's still here. I always like raid and then like leave the room immediately because I have to piss. So, I'm really bad about staying during my raids. The Chinese embassy in the United States retweeting Hassan Piker interview with eye emojis. They're gonna get us fucking caught. This is how you know we're not agents. They're gonna get us in trouble. Bro, my roommate is blasting Nick Fuentes. Are you trying to get me banned? Thank God Twitter proved I didn't live in the States. This is what you should blast on your speakers. This is what you should blast on your speakers. Are you ready? Like, please, I've been looking for it forever. Of course. This is an edit. This is an edit. It has a whole bunch of like, it's the song, but it also has like a bunch of like fun videos about Chinese history and then news reports. It has a little bit of regime pill. It's like a regime pilled video, but I still love it. We need an American cover of the rock version of International. Like, come on. I think I actually had one. I have to check it out. I have to find it. Anyway, I really like how this one ends.
So agrees.
这是载入中华民族史册的一篇。
实现中华民族的伟大复兴，就是中华民族近代最伟大的作为。经过长期努力，中国特色社会主义进入了新时代。
确的中国共产党万岁！伟大光荣英雄的中国人民万岁！
Yeah, this is from 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, rather. FD calling him out. Fred Hampton was asking racist whites to join in a working class coalition with him. We need to admit that Nick Fuentes may be the white Fred Hampton. He's not. He's not. He's not. Guys, just because Nick Fuentes is doing what all fascists do. They find one point that has within farting distance of the truth. And you're so desperate to find common ground with other human beings that you fall for it. Guys, stop being so fucking stupid. And by the way, the racist whites were not intentionally racist. They just believed dumb shit about the lost cause myth that the Confederacy flag wasn't racist. It was Fred Hampton who educated them. They weren't racist. They were just dumb white boys, uneducated working class white boys. And Fred Hampton took the time to educate them. They were not racist. Fuentes is a scumbag and a fascist. I met a Hispanic Nick Fuentes watcher at a CS match who said his grandma's undocumented and he said he doesn't give a shit if ICE comes and takes her away. Yeah. Oh no. Wow. He's so edgy. Wow. He's such an edgy boy. Oh, is he an edgy boy? Is he an edgy boy? Is he an edgy boy? Is he a little edgy boy? I just realized something, chat. I never shilled today. I never fucking shilled today. If you enjoy this content, please consider supporting it by subscribing. At tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's $5 from Jeff Bezos' pocket that you are expropriating for mine. Put it in my pocket, and I promise to dedicate it to pampering a socialist, making champagne socialism a reality. 1 prime at a time. I'm kidding. But I'm not, though. I made a YT edit for your China rant from yesterday. I shared it with Bazaar. Nice. Terrorist, thank you for the 5 tier 1s. Appreciate you. The anti-capitalist corporatist, thank you for the 200 bits. I'd be grateful for a gifty. I would be grateful if you got a gifty as well. Remember, chat, when you subscribe, you get access to VODs, Twitch Rewind, emotes. You get access to clipping. It's good for you. Okay, where was I saying? Where was I at? Oh, yeah. The Chinese embassy retweeting Hassan. It's so funny, dude. It's so fucking funny, dude.
I also wanted to show my audience and the Western world in general that there are a lot of rumors about China. There's a lot of misunderstandings and also just outright lies. And that it's just another normal country, just like every other country is.
This is Hassan Piker, an American online streamer, influencer, and a political commentator who wields significant influence over the young demographic in the US. He's known for his daily streams featuring political commentary and media analysis, and has amassed a combined 4.5 million followers on Twitch and YouTube. In his streams, he often discusses China's development with his viewers. Now, he has finally taken his first trip to China.
I know Beijing is your first stop in your whole travel plan in China. It's probably just been 2 days for you to arrive in China. How's your experience so far?
It's been amazing. I haven't slept at all. You know, I'm carrying myself because I'm so excited. It's been a remarkable experience thus far. But I was always very excited to come to China, so this has been a dream come true for me.
What do you want to experience the most, or what do you want to try the most?
The food, I want to see all the big tier 1 cities, but most importantly, I am super stoked that I'm going to get on a high-speed train tomorrow to go to Shanghai, because I also want high-speed rail in America.
Why? Why are you looking forward to visit China?
Well, part of it is because I talk about China quite a bit as far as like lessons to learn and what America could adopt and emulate, and seeing it in real time, I think is a lot different. I also wanted to show my audience and the Western world in general that there are a lot of rumors about China. There's a lot of misunderstandings and also just outright lies, and that it's just another normal country, just like every other country is. I know that, but 1, experiencing it for myself is good, and seeing it for myself is good, and then 2, showing.
Dread to Max, thank you guys. We have a hype trade. The top sub gifter and the top bit donor get the hype trade conductor badge right now. Terrorist with 5 gifted subs and the anti-corporatist with 200 bits are the hype trade conductors. You get a golden locomotive next to your name in the chat that becomes a purple locomotive permanently. What kind of leftist doesn't like trains? And I know about me. When I see someone as a subscriber and the hype train conductor, I'm like, maybe I should give that person the benefit of the doubt with their memes and their jokes. I'm not like, that guy's a fucking Nazi, ban.
Other people.
I'm just kidding. Don't do. I swear to God, and I want to say one other thing. I swear to fucking God, if you do misogynistic shit or racist shit in my chat, I will find you.
As well, I think will be a good opportunity.
Why are you Monka Wing? Are you planning on doing fucked up shit? Yeah, I thought this might happen. Kat got Omega fucked. When she launched her campaign, she was running against an existing progressive Democrat who then dropped out. And then when it became an open seat, a bunch of people jumped in. And one of those is Daniel Biss. Now, if you've been a longtime follower of my channel, you know that Daniel Biss ran to be Illinois governor from the kind of like, I would call it social liberal, you know, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren tweener position. Daniel Biss, not piss. And he jumped into her race, and he's a very strong candidate because he's very well connected to kind of progressive organizations and labor in Illinois. And so Kat has, you know, and Kat didn't run as a socialist, which was always my concern. I was like, why don't you just declare yourself a socialist? Why aren't you a socialist? And Kat never, I think Kat says she is now, but that like stutter step at the beginning of the race kind of like slowed my roll. And so I think I saw a poll where Daniel was ahead. He's just been endorsed by Maxwell Frost and Pramila Jayapal. Congressional Progressive Caucus PAC endorses Daniel Biss for Illinois' 9th District. Today, the Congressional Progressive Caucus PAC announced it has endorsed Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss in the March 17th primary election for Illinois' 9th Congressional District. In his decades of service to Illinois as an educator, activist, legislator, and as a mayor, Daniel Biss has been a bold progressive change agent and a critical ally for working families, said CPC PAC co-chairs Pramila Jayapal and Maxwell Frost. He is a strong partner in moving forward critical legislation, including Medicare for All, the PRO Act, a wealth tax on billionaires and ultra-millionaires, as well as holding ICE accountable and ensuring humane reforms to our immigration system. Because of his deep roots in the district, we are confident he will continue to build a broad and diverse coalition of local and in-district support. We are proud to endorse him. With our democracy facing an unprecedented assault from Donald Trump and his MAGA cronies, the Congressional Progressive Caucus is leading the fight to put our government back on the side of the people, said Daniel Biss. We need the bold leadership of the CPC and Congress to unrig our economy, make healthcare more accessible, protect our environment, and fix our corrupt political system. I'm honored to stand with the Congressional Progressive Caucus in this fight. Yeah. Love your streams. Hope to see you stream with Hassan and Caroline. I have streamed with both Hassan and Caroline before. So these are my old buddies. CPC is as in the Communist Party of China? No, the Congressional Progressive Caucus. I always I was worried about this because it was a tough district for a pro-Palestine candidate. I don't know what Daniel Biss says on Israel. Is he like a J Streeter? This calls for the U.S. to recognize Palestine. Time for the U.S. to officially recognize a Palestinian state. He would support a bill. Biss's position on the issue is significant given his family's background, his relationship to Israel, a previous commitment to defending Israel, dropping his running mate in 2018 campaign for governor over his stance on boycotting domestic sanctions to Israel. His mother moved to Israel from Romania. While he describes starvation and previously famine perpetuated by the Israeli government, he did not add his name to the growing list of House Democrats and political hopefuls in describing Israel's actions as genocide. If you are so morally and ethically compromised on this issue, you are no better than a MAGA Republican or are undeserving of even calling yourself a Democrat. Colin Gatal, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. I appreciate you. The J Street liberal Zionists, man. Ugh. Gross. Max, Hoagie Mindset. Thank you everybody for supporting the stream. I think it's anybody's seat to win. I think Kat has a really good shot, but this sucks. This fucking sucks. It makes me want to jump in more on Kat's behalf. Why is the Axios reporter blocking me? What the fuck? Why is this Axios reporter blocked me? Huh? I'll have to find that out. Interesting. Weird. Very weird. Probably said something spicy about Israel. They went to cry about it. Oh, that's definitely true. If somebody blocks me, they usually are in one of two categories. Either they're either a huge Israel simp, or they are like a Kamala Harris mega fan. That's usually something like that. That's weird. That's some weird shit. Has she reached out to you? A long time in the past. I can reach back out to her. I think that's I think with the BIS candidacy, that's tough because that's splitting a lot of the people that she was counting on to win. All right, chat. Samuel Cedar explaining.
Got a lot of comments on the fact that I wore a suit, as if like I didn't. I've done a lot of cable television years. I wore a lot of suits. It's not that big of a deal.
It's been a while though.
It's been a while, yes, particularly since I wore a tie. And I have to say, I was on the set, and Asted Herndon came on, and Brian mentioned this first thing to me. He goes, when you saw Asted come on wearing a jean jacket, were you like, I didn't have to wear a tie? And I said, like, that is the only thing I was thinking. I saw him walk through the door. I'm like, God damn it. Why am I wearing this? But here is that the guy, I can't remember the name of the gentleman. He was nice, but he had a very difficult job to argue anything about I mean, it was devastating. I should say this aired Saturday morning, but we recorded it at 5 p.m. on Friday. So I was like watching the press conference in the car to CNN. So nobody knew what to say, I think, on the right at that point.
I'm going to come to you, Terry, on this. How do you feel about that?
Look, I think what we are seeing is two obvious political athletes who are respecting each other. President Trump is a competitor. Zohran Mamdani is a competitor. And I want to be clear. I'm not one of the Republicans. I disagree with like everything Mamdani has been proposing. And I don't think that he's actually
with a tier 3. You king.
Going to solve these problems that New York is facing. However, I respect the campaign that he ran, and I respect the campaign and the issues that he ran on, because very few people in this country that run for public office actually talk about the needs and the crises that people are actually facing every single day. And I think that Zohran Mamdani did that better than ever with talking about affordable housing. I wish Republicans would start to get on the ball on that, because if we don't address affordable housing, we're going to lose our country.
And Trump actually mentioned that specifically, and he said we actually agree on making.
How much of a bet would you have made that a Republican responding to this press conference a half an hour after it's over would basically be bank shot praising Mamdani and having nothing else to say? Like, what kind of bet?
When's the last time that a Republican like that has conceded any point to any Democrat?
And the stuff this guy was willing to argue during it was also sort of like during this whole show was like, boy, dude. I even said to him, I said at the break, I said, you got a very tough job today. And which is the nicest thing I've ever said to a Republican panelist ever. But let's continue, because this is the other point, is that we have been told over and over again by the likes of Chuck Schumer, who still to this day has not acknowledged that Mamdani won. Yep. The mayor of his own city. And Jeffries, who held out to the very last moment to endorse Mamdani.
Nice.
They lost on Friday. You understand? They lost too. Mm-hmm. They look like idiots because they've never been able to do what Mamdani was able to do. And they've lost all of their scare tactics about Mamdani.
Mentioned that specifically, and he said we actually agree on making housing more affordable. He said Mamdani wants to increase the supply of housing, and so do I. I mean, honestly, I am not surprised that this happened today. I think that this makes a lot of sense, because I think that they actually are sort of two sides of the same coin politically.
Yeah, they're movement politicians. They're both people who kind of base their politics and kind of
go forward to where. I don't buy this. They're on the same side of things. Okay.
And they're getting along, and they know everybody wants to pay attention, and it is a spectacle, and they're going to give you the show, and that's exactly what they did today, because they both agree. You disagree.
No, I agree, but I have to say,
you've been to the club.
But here's the thing: is that they were trying to make it like these guys are just showmen. Nothing else is really going on there. There's no stakes. Both sides. Blah blah blah.
Mike, the U.S. poverty line should be 140K, not 31K. Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right to me. If you are trying to own a home, a single home, pay for health insurance, have a car, you know, go on a vacation once a year or twice a year, have a wardrobe, have like, you know, basic expenditures, 141,000 sounds to me like what used to be middle class. There's no way that you could afford that. Less than 6 figures in this. Like 6 figures is now basic.
No, that's not what happened there at all.
You mean the two panelists?
I mean, almost all of
even the framing. Yeah, too.
Go ahead. Into the club. but I have to say that I thought what Mamdani was able to do today was masterful. He got the president to praise FDR. I mean, if you think about this in terms of like, who knows what's going to happen months from now in terms of how they're going to get along. But Mamdani in an hour was able to essentially blow up the idea of demonizing a democratic socialist. So Elise Stefanik is now lost in the middle of the ocean without any tether. Even people like, you know, Chuck Schumer, even people within the Democratic establishment, even Hakeem Jeffries, who was afraid of Mamdani that he was going to ruin congressional elections around the country because they were going to run against Mamdani. They can no longer do that.
So let me play one more bit from their exchange. This is...
Yeah, you were on the money. And it is interesting that they were trying to make it just this whole, like, they're both movement politicians thing. What does that mean? The fact, like, they can mobilize voters to the polls? Isn't that the whole...
The populist.
Deal?
They are both populist.
Like, yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's appropriate to draw comparisons between the two, except to say that, yeah, they've both been...
they're both good politicians.
Yes, they're both good politicians, and they've both also been eschewed by the party establishment, or were at the start of their basically political careers, and then the popular sentiment behind them made it impossible for the party establishment to deny it, although we're still in the process of seeing if that's possible with Mamdani and the Democrats.
You saw a little bit of this when AOC won, and the whole conversation about do billionaires have a right to exist was inspired by, I think, Dan Riffle, one of her staffers, having that as his username. But George Lakoff, the sort of political theorist, has the don't think of an elephant, where you do not accept your opponent's frame, you just stick to your frame. And this is the first time where the left has forced the right to accept the frame, which is talking about affordable housing. Well, the only thing that they have about affordable housing is the Nazi lie that there are undocumented people in the house that you could be living in.
That's when that guy
and the only reason why they brought that up was in the wake of Mamdani winning. Yeah.
That was what that guy was trying to allude to at the beginning, where he said that we have to take back our country. We need more housing. That's what they basically mean, is the ethnic cleansing of certain kinds of people in order to in some way free up housing. We know that living here in New York City, where there are high vacancy rates at these very, very swanky apartments, that this is not a in many parts of the country there is a supply issue, but in many other ways it's not a supply issue primarily. It is a corporate gouging and greed and over commodification problem.
And deporting immigrants.
Well, there's no such, I mean, it's not an over commodification problem, it's a commodification problem. The moment you say that this thing will be purely distributed according to market fundamentals or market logic, you have declared it to no longer be a human right. All right? Because as soon as you say this thing will only be sold for money, you have effectively declared it to be a commodity that can be denied someone who needs it. So that's not an over commodification issue. That's a commodification issue.
And denying refugee claims is not going to solve it a little bit.
More than 1 million jobs have been lost in the last few months. Yeah.
Well, it may help crash the economy. I mean, we're seeing the tariffs are potentially doing that. And we know that when we lose this kind of immigrant labor, that it has a deleterious effect on a lot of our industries. So if that might bring prices down, yes. But that's the Republican plan for bringing prices down, is crashing the frickin' economy.
Make fun half again. Sam Cedar looking like my defense attorney in that suit. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls.
All right, chat. I'm going to call it there because I have a couple things I need to take care of. So let's do it. Let's see here. I'm going to send guys, gals, non-binary pals to our mod. Condition Bleen is streaming with his really fun and cool retro gaming setup. Let him explain it. Everything on his overlay is not a window. It is a real existing analog object. So he does retro gaming streams, and it is a camera filming really fun overlay. I love it. Say hi to Condition Bleed for me. Stay safe out there, chat. Solidarity forever. And that is how socialism will win. All right, everybody. Stay safe. I'm sorry, Socialist Masshole. We ran out of time. Sorry about that, buddy. Let me think about it. Let me think about how we're going to cover it. All right. I'll see you. Take it easy, chat. Stay safe. And peace out. Say hi to Condition Bleed for me. Free Palestine.